Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 13th regular meeting of Nanaimo City Council. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. We have no councillors, obviously, attending electronically tonight. A good show. Tonight's regular meeting of council is being held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. So if during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question regarding an agenda item, write down your name and the agenda item on the question period sign-up sheet, which is on the table by the double doors to my left. And please note that the Council Procedure Bylaw states that questions will only be taken on staff reports, consent items, or other business items. As we have a number of folks in the audience tonight, I would just like to read the following notice to everyone. I would remind all of you attending in person about the rules of decorum for all council and committee meetings. A meeting of council is intended to be a place where democracy can freely take place in a respectful and safe manner. The council chambers is a workplace, and there are considerations council and staff must make to ensure that a safe work environment exists in accordance with WorkSafe BC regulations. To support this, and in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw, disrespectful conduct will not be tolerated, so we ask that there be no cheering, jeering, or other disruptions from the gallery. Furthermore, the use of electronic devices for recording or photographing is prohibited unless otherwise authorized through the media accreditation policy or by the chair. This will ensure that anyone speaking, whether they be a delegation, member of council, or staff, is not interrupted and can make their point freely without distraction, fear of ridicule, or intimidation. That said, there may be moments during certain presentations or recognitions where clapping or expressions of appreciation are welcomed. I'll indicate when those moments are appropriate. I don't think there's any of those on the agenda item, on the agenda tonight. In instances where a speaker is being inappropriate or has exceeded their time limit, their microphone will be cut off. Similarly, if there are disruptions by any person in the gallery, they will be asked to stop, and if they do not comply, they may be asked to leave as permitted under Section 133 of the Community Charter. If necessary, Council may call a recess in order to reset the environment of Council chambers. It is our belief that if everyone is respectful of these basic considerations, this meeting and future meetings will be more effective in furthering the business of the City of Nanaimo. And the first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. Ms. Gurry, and we have several, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. For late items tonight, we have agenda item 8A, Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation semi-annual update. We're adding the PowerPoint titled Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation Report to Council. For agenda item 8B, Tourism Nanaimo semi-annual update, we're adding the briefing note and PowerPoint titled Tourism Nanaimo Q1 2026 Progress Report. For agenda item 13B, rezoning application number RA521 for 2565 Departure Bay Road, we're adding a delegation from Don Dudridge. And agenda item 17A, deferred motion development cost charge reduction bylaw, we're adding a PowerPoint titled Development Cost Charge DCC Reduction Options. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. A motion for adoption.
Your Worship, your mic looks on, but it does not sound like it is on. Yes, and I can see the green light too, so I think we might have to set you up with a mic here. What's that? Oh, we can try to turn Ian's on and then have you speak, Councillor Thorpe. Yeah.
Mine's working.
Councillor Brown.
Just to anyone that's listening at home or online, we're having some microphone issues, so we're trying to have the mayor set up.
Okay, I can give him a roaming mic, but we're probably going to have to reset the desk to get them to work again.
Okay, so
How long would that take?
5 minutes, hopefully?
Well, then why don't we see if we can do that instead of...
yes,
so sorry.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. Sorry, everyone.
We're just taking a 5-minute recess for those of you that are online or at home. Thank you.
Yeah, just plug it back in. First rule. Cut off the light flow.
Named after one of Nanaimo's most notable celebrities, Diana Krall Plaza is an open public space in the heart of downtown Nanaimo. The space is one with plenty of potential, but most days it serves as little more than a space to pass through or to access the credit union or public library that have entrances that face the plaza. In essence, Diana Krall Plaza is a space that has yet to find its heartbeat. However, one event does make great use of the space each Thursday evening throughout the summer. The night market along Commercial Street brings food trucks, artisans, vendors, and entertainers in, transforming Diana Krall Plaza into the lively destination it was always meant to be. As downtown Nanaimo is reimagined, the goal for this key plaza is to carry the energy of the night market forward in a way that sees the space used well throughout each day and every season. Diana Krall Plaza was established in the late 1990s when the Port Theatre, the Harbourfront branch of the Vancouver Island Regional Library, and the Harbourfront Parkade were built. The plaza sits atop that parkade. This was a new approach to open space in Nanaimo, but the problem? The plaza was, and typically still is, empty. As the roof of a parkade, the plaza suffers from structural load limitations. The plaza can't support big trees or heavy features. Blank walls on adjacent buildings and minimal art leaves the space feeling uncomfortable and uninviting. Over the years, design ideas were brought forward, but none were realized. That, however, is about to change. In 2020, an advisory committee of volunteers, businesses, Vancouver Island University staff, and students, and the City of Nanaimo came together to re-envision Diana Krall Plaza. Their goal? To create an actionable vision for the plaza that will lead to real change. Building on this groundwork, a project team held community workshops, a design charrette, and put in many hours of volunteer effort to create realistic ideas that would animate the space and make it feel inviting. Features like warm lighting, intriguing art, comfortable seating, and shade will bring the vision to life. The renewed space would also be a multi-purpose and ready for outdoor patio usage, informal play, and many different events, big and small. Now armed with ideas to greatly improve both the physical and social character of Diana Krall Plaza, the design development for the first phase is underway, and with it, a new rhythm is being created for the heart of downtown Nanaimo.
There's a wing flutter of starlings, little specks that swoop low and then rise, gliding over cushions of air, like the gentle crest and trough of ocean waves, to fan out in oblivion. All is quiet and still again. You send ripples through still waters of ponds, making them glisten like 1,000 prisms bathed in the brilliance of a fall morning. Come dusk, you blow harder, and the leaves of the sprawling oak tree pirouette and glide in the air like little ballerinas, then sink onto the ground below. breath of autumn. I stand atop a hill on an early morn and hear your beacon call. Your breath, as you whisper sweet nothings to the stately pines and conifers. You fly with your invisible cape, rustling through their slender branches to make stately willows dance and sway. You gently rise, your breath soft like a lullaby, as you transform maple trees from green to ochre to a flaming red, setting hillsides ablaze with the fiery plumes of cedars. You ascend to the gray sky to make wispy clouds play hide and seek with the setting sun. You send ripples through still waters of ponds, making them glisten like 1,000 prisms bathed in the brilliance of a fall morning. Come dusk, you blow harder, and the leaves of the sprawling oak tree pirouette and glide in the air like little ballerinas, then sink onto the ground below. A family of furry squirrels scurries down the rugged trunk of the old dogwood tree to nosedive into a pile of crinkled yellow leaves that were once skittering down the cobbled sidewalk. Welcome, autumn. It is fall. Cloud-mottled sky, shadow-flecked Mount Benson, silver-spangled Long Lake, silent creeks echoing shrill cries of a golden eagle that resound far and wide. Sparkling streams meander lazily, their mercurial waters networking the lush green fabric of a city called Nanaimo. Come summer, bushed heavy with blueberries and blackberries, skirt trails that wind through forests of oak and age-old cedars. Ducks and herons play hide and seek among the tall, swaying bulrushes, pock-marking still waters of a pond. Daisies smile and nod through overgrown ferns and nettle, all silently waiting, an expectancy that hangs in the air, a yearning for something new, a new season, a new makeover of nature. It is fall.
This is a City of Nanaimo storm drain. This is also a City of Nanaimo storm drain. The only thing that goes in this is rainwater. Anything other than rainwater ends up into the ocean, which ultimately affects the marine life. There's many different styles of catch basins. These are just two, but they both collect rainwater. One has a fish stamped on it. That's telling me that it's unprocessed and it goes directly to an environmentally sensitive area. This is the outfall, so anything that you put in that catch basin is ultimately going to end up into the ocean. If you have any questions about where to take your unwanted wasted products, such as paint products and petroleum products, you can contact the City of Nanaimo at 758-5222. You can also go onto our website. You can also download the Nanaimo Recycles app. Please do not throw material down the catch basins.
Downtown Nanaimo is home to one-of-a-kind shops, bustling cafes, and popular community events like the Commercial Street Night Market. But it hasn't always been this way. In the 1990s, downtown Nanaimo's charm was fading fast. Over the decades, as Nanaimo expanded and grew outwards, development of large retail malls and the relocation of office spaces were luring commerce and activity away from Nanaimo's city core. In the late 1990s, with a definite need for new ideas and solutions, a group of downtown business owners partnered with city councilors and staff and formed the Downtown Nanaimo Partnership. With the goal of reinvigorating the heart of downtown Nanaimo, the downtown
serious problem than anticipated, so the three of us in the middle are going to be passing a mic, and the three on either side will have the option of actually using theirs. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. I think that was already passed. Ms. Gurry?
I don't think your mic ever worked, so if you can redo that again, that would be great.
Right. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. On to the mayor's report. I've got a few items, but I'm going to let Councillor Manley go first tonight. Please.
First, but there you go. Yeah, I just wanted to provide a report back from my trip to Taiwan. I was there as a delegate for 6 days, and I did two presentations on our official community plan, and the first one was in Taipei. On the second day, it was on city climate resilience and sustainability, and I focused on our official community plan, and then I will reimagine the key areas addressing sustainability, our planning framework, the donut model, our integrated action plans, and monitoring strategy. And people were really impressed with it. There was a lot of folks from around the world at this conference. The second one I did was in Kaohsiung, and Kaohsiung is a sister port to the port of Nanaimo, and that was on day 5. And that one was on the official community plan, but also focused on transportation rather than sustainability. So I talked about the new free bus passes for students, on our active transportation system, and the outlook for expansion of transit, linking secondary urban cores with the outlying areas. And people were quite impressed with some of the photos I shared of our complete streets. Both of those presentations, and I met with CEOs and trade representatives. I did a trip to Taichung with Venus Chen, who is the official representative for the province of British Columbia in Taiwan, and we met with CEOs from a number of companies. We toured a factory that is manufacturing car chargers, and they're a subsidiary of the largest cable manufacturing on the planet, large corporation. They're setting up partnerships with companies in British Columbia, and they're looking for lands where they can set up manufacturing. All along the way, I was talking about the port and about the greenfield sites that we have that are part of Sandstone, the greenfield sites that Nanaimo has, the land that Nanaimo Forest Products has. And so I connected Venus afterwards with Georgia Desjardins from Seacliff Sandstone, with Ian Simpson from Petroglyph Development Corporation, with Ryan Prontak from Nanaimo Forest Products, and with Colin Stanfield from Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation. And Venus is going to work to make connections with these companies and with companies in Taiwan. And there was a lot of interest in them sort of exploring direct trade with Canada rather than through the United States, given the trade situation that Donald Trump has set up. So some of the other things going through the expo, looking at different technologies, one of the fascinating ones were firefighting robots. So they had robots that you could hook up hoses to that would go and fight fires in dangerous situations for firefighters, like chemical plants or large fuel tanks. But they also had firefighting robots that were completely autonomous, that we're in these parking lots, 8 floors of parking lots where they have EVs plugged in, and when the alarm goes, this robot will boot out, go to the car. It has infrared for heat seeking and a video camera, and it's sending information back to the fire department, has tanks on it, smothers the fire. Electric car battery fires require a lot of water to cool down, but chemicals will deal with that. There's a lot of fascinating technology around remote health diagnostics equipment, which I think is really relevant to Canada, where you could just ship a suitcase up into a remote community and connect with a specialist directly at one of the tertiary hospitals and be able to have these diagnostic tools working with you. They had all kinds of like earthquake sensors, systems for monitoring water flows with the monsoons. I met with the mayor of Taipei and trade representatives from countries around the world, and then I was there for the celebration of the 40th anniversary of the Canadian Trade Office in Taipei, where I also met with a lot of company executives and talked about the port, talked about the possibilities here in Nanaimo. I did the second presentation in Kaohsiung, and I met with the CEO of the Kaohsiung Port Authority, the corporation actually. It's a different setup there. We did tours there. We did a lot of tours. I won't get into all the details. One of them was the Kaohsiung Library, which had trees on the outside on the different floors. It was a green style building. And yeah, so I met with mayors in those 3 cities, Taipei, Kaohsiung, and Taichung, and just made lots of good connections, saw lots of fascinating technology, and it was overall a very interesting, illuminating trip.
Thank you very much, and I just want to make it clear for those of you who are listening or paying attention or the local media, the entire cost of this trip was covered by the government of Taipei. No expenses were incurred by the city of Nanaimo. And in frankly a yeoman act of service to the community, Councillor Manley purchased protocol gifts with his own dollars and distributed them accordingly. So I just want to express on behalf of Council our thanks for having undertaken this. It was a short trip and a very long ways to go, but very good for the relationship between our community and Taiwan generally. You've got something further to add?
I was just say my gifts were all local salmon from St. Jean's Cannery, the boxes of First Nations salmon, and promoting Nanaimo and Vancouver Island all the way, so thanks.
Thank you very much for this. I've only got a couple items tonight. As of today, Monday, April 13th, we've got 3rd Street road closures. The intersection at 3rd Street and Howard Avenue will be closed 24 hours a day from April 13th to May 8th. And 3rd Street between Howard Avenue and Pine Street will be closed 24 hours a day from April 13th to August 13th. Detours will be in place for both closures. Pedestrians and cyclists will be accommodated, but cyclists will need to dismount. Transit will be detoured. Check BC Transit for more information. Expect delays and plan your route ahead, please. Thank you for your patience while we replace aging water and storm sewer mains in this area. It is unavoidable. And for more information on this project, visit the project page on nanaimo.ca. And also, we are commencing today the annual catch basin cleanup program. We have 10,000 catch basins in the city of Nanaimo. And as of today, Nanaimo Public Works and contractors will be out cleaning the city's inventory of catch basins. It helps reduce the risk of pollutants from entering our natural environment. Starting in the Duke Point area, crews will work their way through the various corridors of the city. This work involves large equipment and staff working on the road. So please approach with caution and obey traffic control personnel's directions. The annual catch basin cleaning program is expected to be complete by the end of August. And again, particularly to drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians, again, watch for the crews, please. We don't want any mishaps during this absolutely necessary part of our annual cleanup. Under Rise and Report, we have a Board of Variance appointment, and that is on March the 23rd at the in-camera meeting of Council. Council appointed Chris Silm to the Board of Variance for a 3-year term ending 2029, March 23rd, or until a successor is appointed. We are now moving on to presentations, and I hope that our presenters are available via Zoom. Yes, that's good. We haven't got a problem there electronically. The first is the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation semi-annual update. Colin Stansfield, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation, is going to provide an update from the corporation. Mr. Stansfield, good evening, and the floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I'd like to do tonight is to walk you through a bit of how our work at NPC is evolving from a set of individual initiatives into something that is more coordinated, more intentional, and ultimately more effective. You'll see a mix of things in this presentation, some very practical work around investment attraction and business engagement, and some of the underlying systems work that allows those efforts to actually add up to something over time. But the through line is this: we're moving from fragmented activity toward coordinated execution, building capacity as an organization and as a community to take on more complex challenges with greater confidence. And so I'll do my best to move quickly through the slides, not reading them out, but focusing on context where it's most useful. Next slide, please. Of course, NPC, we do acknowledge with gratitude that our work takes place on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. And it's not just about gratitude for their stewardship of these lands and waters, it's also about learning and leadership. And Snuneymuxw is demonstrating in real time and in a very real way what it looks like to grow a local economy that is both sustainable and regenerative, creating value not just for today, but for future generations, and not just for one group, but across the community. And their example is an inspiration and sets a standard for our work. Next slide, please. You've seen these before, so I won't read them out, but I will emphasize how we're increasingly using these as a way to discipline our work. Everything we do is being filtered through the 4 questions. Are we advancing a major project that actually moves the needle? Are we strengthening local industry in a way that improves wages and competitiveness? Are we improving the conditions that shape quality of life? And are we doing this in a way that attracts and aligns investment? If something doesn't clearly connect back to those, I think we're getting much better at and getting much more comfortable with not doing it. Next slide, please. And this slide really is about investment readiness. That's the word that I forgot on the slide. Over the past year, we've completed Nanaimo's first foreign direct investment readiness strategy with support from Export Development Canada and in alignment with provincial and federal partners. That distinction around readiness does matter. It isn't just about attracting investment, it's about being ready for it, being clear about where we compete, having the right information at hand, being able to respond in a coordinated way when opportunities emerge. And critically, that includes understanding and activating the assets that make investment possible, things like industrial land, as you heard from Councillor Manley, infrastructure and key enabling conditions. It also includes the signals that we send to the market. If we appear uncertain about whether we want growth or unclear about where and how it should happen, investors interpret that as risk and they start to look elsewhere. So part of readiness is being clear, consistent, and confident in how we show up. Next slide, please. So getting into some of the detail then around that foreign direct investment, this slide gives you a sense of the depth of that work. It was a substantial piece of analysis and design funded through CanExport, and it establishes the foundation for investment readiness in Nanaimo. We now have a clear investment narrative built around a strong evidence base. We've got defined priority sectors and an implementation roadmap, including a much clearer understanding of the assets that we need to protect, that we need to prepare, and that we need to activate to support growth. We're going to be inviting council into a separate session to walk through this in more detail because there's a lot there. What I will note tonight, though, is this shift of moving from opportunity awareness to being in a position to act with intent and coordination. And I will happily let you know that we've also just been awarded a second round of CanExport funding to carry this work forward. So it isn't just a one-off exercise, but rather the start of a very sustained effort. Next slide, please. So you've probably heard a lot the discussion right now about Canada's defense and security investments. In some circles, it's being described maybe less as a wave and more as a tsunami because it's moving across multiple sectors at once: manufacturing, technology, logistics, energy. But like any wave, it will pass. And so our job is to make sure that Nanaimo and Vancouver Island are in a position to catch it right at the shore rather than being overwhelmed and dragged out. But how we do that matters. And so not only are we pursuing Nanaimo's interest, but we're making sure that we're doing it with a commitment to regional prosperity through what's being framed as a Team Vancouver Island approach with the goal to align industry, Indigenous partners, academia, and government into a more cohesive, again, sort of defense-ready ecosystems, so that the opportunities don't just flow past us. So we are working actively with partners from the other side of the Malahat to make sure that we are all together and making as much noise as we can on the federal scene, because it is a quickly emerging and shaping scene. Next slide, please. That notion of being quick and being ready, around business retention and expansion. This is really about adapting to the reality that businesses are operating in today. Traditional business retention and expansion programs were built for a much more stable environment, and that's not how we're operating anymore. What we're building with our partners is something that is more continuous and coordinated, from episodic outreach like business walks to more ongoing intelligence, from siloed efforts to shared visibility, and from reactive support to earlier, more proactive intervention. And really that's it, right? Because the antidote to complexity, I think, is collaboration. So more coordination, systems-based approach to shared impact. And you'll see this reflected in things like the Power Breakfast that we're hosting later this week with partners, focused on funding, support, practical strategies for local businesses. And the goal here really is simple. It's about fewer surprises, faster responses, and better alignment across the organizations that businesses rely on. Next slide, please. In terms of business signals and what we're hearing from the community, we're making sure that we're grounding our work in what we're actually hearing from businesses. And the signal lately has been fairly consistent. Confidence is fragile, cost pressures remain the dominant concern, and complexity, whether regulatory or administrative, is what's making it harder to plan and invest. And so what I'd emphasize is this, that businesses aren't asking for special treatment. What we're hearing is they're wanting predictability. They want clear pathways, and they want to be part of the conversation, particularly when policies affect their ability to invest and grow. And that's an important distinction in shaping how we approach our work with partners and with the city. Next slide, please. So the question for us then isn't just how we respond to these pressures in the moment, it's how we build capacity across the community, as I mentioned, to respond more effectively over time. And one way to think about that, I think, is along a spectrum. At one end, you have reactive work, responding to issues as they arise, then there's more proactive work, trying to get ahead of them, then opportunistic, moving when something opens up. But we're trying to be beyond that, into the strategic field, where we're making deliberate choices about where to focus, and ultimately, in these more complex environments, cascading crises, continued uncertainty, we want to be able to make sure that we're working more intelligently in emergence, the far other end of the spectrum, where we can adapt and move with confidence, even as conditions are changing. And that's really the challenge at the moment. So the Living Systems program is how we're starting to build that capacity. In practice, it means aligning around shared values and common direction, focusing effort on high leverage initiatives, and building feedback loops so that we can learn quickly and adjust. Next slide, please. The Compass Initiative is where this approach is being tested and applied in real time. We've been facilitating this work in service to the Mayor's Leaders Table, bringing partners together to establish a shared foundation for how we work, a clear direction of travel, and to focus, again, on those largest, most transformative opportunities that create cascading benefits across the system. And so the most important shift isn't really the outputs, it's this behavior change. We're moving from organizations advancing individual priorities to a more coordinated approach, where we're asking what matters most, where do we align, how do we move together? And that's what we're referring to as the Nanaimo Accord. So not a new program, but rather a shared way of working. Next slide, please. And of course, if we're going to work this way, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We also need a better way of understanding whether it's actually working, and that's where quality of life comes in. When we treat the economy as a living system, growth only matters if it improves the conditions people experience day to day. And what's important here is that NPC isn't working in isolation. This is work that we're developing with partners across the community. We're working closely with the city, the Nanaimo Foundation, the Chamber of Commerce, FAIA, Island Health, and ICE-T. And then we're connected to a broader community of practice across Canada that's working on similar challenges. So this is both locally grounded and externally informed. Practically, it means putting together a shared measurement framework, a dashboard that brings together data in one place, and using a lab-based approach that is using measurement as a tool for learning, alignment, and action. And while we're doing this for Nanaimo, again, there's a clear line of sight to scaling this work across Vancouver Island over time. So it becomes less about reporting and more about shared understanding, alignment, and accountability across institutions. Next slide, please. Ultimately, the effectiveness of everything that I've just talked about does depend on a set of enabling conditions, and housing is one of the most critical. Affordable and attainable housing isn't just a social issue, it is foundational economic infrastructure. It determines whether people can participate in the economy, whether businesses can attract and retain workers, and whether investment actually translates into growth. And the challenge here is that housing is a full system. It requires coordination across land, policy, financing, delivery, and long-term affordability, to say nothing of the many different modes of housing that need to exist as well. And no single organization controls that system, so part of our role, we think, is helping to bridge across the system, improving coordination, alignment, and shared understanding. But at the same time, effective system work still requires targeted intervention. So at NPC, that means focusing on areas where there are clear gaps, leverage points. For us, that's missing middle housing and non-market and below market approaches where affordability is secured structurally. So we're playing that dual role of helping the system function more effectively as a whole, while also driving action where it's most needed and aligned with our vision for a prosperous Nanaimo. Next slide, please. And finally, none of this work has impact if people don't understand it, if they don't see themselves in it or know how to engage. So a final piece of our work is making sure we're telling a clear, consistent story about how Nanaimo's economy is growing and where we're going. That shows up across a range of channels, some of which you see on the screen, but the intent is simple: to support alignment, to attract opportunity, and to invite participation. And we are indeed always looking for more opportunities to connect formally and informally. Next slide, please. So I will close with this, what you're seeing really is a shift from a set of individual initiatives to a more coordinated approach to how we advance our work in the community. It shows up in how we're preparing for investment, how we're working with businesses, how we're aligning our long-term priorities like housing and quality of life. But it also shows up in how we're working together across institutions with a clear sense of shared direction and growing capacity to act in a more coordinated way. We're not all the way there, but we're taking leaps and bounds as quick as we can, moving from fragmentation toward alignment, building discipline and capability to take on more complex challenges over time. And so from our perspective, that's what it takes to compete as a 21st century economy in a city. And we appreciate Council's continued support for that work. And so with that, I will leave it with thank you and happily answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stansfield, for that very fulsome update. Councillor Armstrong, question?
2 questions, if I may, through you. The first one is, I heard you briefly mentioned industrial lands. Can you comment if you think Nanaimo has enough or if there's a need for more?
Definitely a need for more, not only in terms of more in its absolute value, but more in the ways that we are making the most of it. And so it is something that we need to protect and expand in terms of our inventory of industrial land.
Thank you. And my second question is, you were talking about your new program that you're working on, the BRIA, I believe it is. Do you have a timeline when you think you'll be able to have that finished, and do you anticipate it making a big difference in attracting investment to Nanaimo?
So the Business Retention Expansion Program is certainly connected to trade and investment, because people want to know they're investing in a community that is open for business, that is supporting for those investments, that is encouraging between businesses and the organizations that support them. And so there is that linkage there. We're looking to have a more formal update to the program done by the end of the calendar year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong. I'm going to pass the mic to Councillor Thorpe, who's next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, to Mr. Stansfield. Thank you very much for the update. Appreciate that. The slide that caught my eye was the one titled Signals from Nanaimo's Business Community. And I was really quite concerned when I read in your summary that business confidence is fragile and the conditions required for confidence, investment, and growth are not currently in place. That to me is quite alarming because of the importance of our local economy and our local businesses. So I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, and we don't have time, but I'm hoping that in a future report we could maybe get into a little bit of a deeper dive on that particular topic and hear what Council can do to possibly improve things there. And in the meantime, through you, Mr. Stansfield, I would encourage the business community to be proactive and reach out to Council. Sometimes I feel we don't hear their voice, and I think some of the responsibility is onto them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe. I'm not seeing any further questions. Mr. Sansfield, thank you so much tonight. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
The next is Tourism Nanaimo Semi-Annual Update, and we have Carly Pearboom, Executive Director of Tourism Nanaimo. Ms. Pearboom, good evening. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you so much. It's lovely to see you, Mayor and Council. I will start this evening off with the presentation once it pops up there. Is that coming up? There we go. Thank you so much. It's always great to have the opportunity to present and to let you know what's been happening for us here at Tourism Nanaimo. I do want to begin by acknowledging that we do work in Snuneymuxw territories and that the relationships we hold with the Snuneymuxw Nation definitely influences how we approach destination development, storytelling, and partnerships throughout the city. What we're going to talk about today is really a quarterly account of what Tourism Nanaimo has delivered in the first 3 months of 2026. But more than a list of activities, the thread that I really wanted to consistently create today in some of this information and new data to us is that Tourism Nanaimo's mandate is to unite a sector. And in doing so, creating a healthy visitor economy. So bringing outside money into this city, and not to just move money around, but to attract visitors, conferences, and sporting events that allow us to have that local money then that's coming in to the businesses to support local jobs and ultimately back to the city itself through MRDT and the OAP revenue. Every program and every campaign that we're working on is to ensure that we're moving that forward. So I look forward to walking you through this, and I will try and stay on time this evening. Next slide, please. To the next slide, please. Thank you. So 4 things that we're covering today. We're going to start with the 2025 destination baseline. Those final numbers are in, which is always a great place to start. That certainly gives us the health of the tourism economy as we enter into this year. And then we're going to look at specifically what's happened in Q1 in 2026. The conferences hosted, the sport events activated with partners, and the campaigns that we have running. And from there, we're going to go into the pipeline. So what's coming, I think that's a really important thing for us to be looking forward to. And then we want to also be looking at how does this all map back to the alignment that we have with the city's priorities and how Tourism Nanaimo continues to support that mandate and speak to the intention of why Tourism Nanaimo was formed in the first place. Next slide, please. So destination health. The next few slides are going to be going over this annual component, as I mentioned, and they matter because I think what they do is they answer the foundational question that we should always be asking ourselves is Nanaimo performing as a tourism destination? And I think through this last year, and certainly through the momentum we're feeling now, the answer would be yes. I think the numbers tell that clearly. And right now what we're seeing is a healthy destination baseline that we finished 2025 with is progressing and supporting the work in Q1 of 2026. Next slide, please. Now, I know I sent over a brief with this report as well, so I'll try to be concise here. I think the 3 numbers that we have up on the screen here really all point in the same direction. Occupancy in 2025 gained 4.4 percentage points. And so for context, occupancy in a low or mid 60s is considered stable, and 67 is considered healthy. So right now that's showing that Nanaimo's hotels are consistently with rooms, and that this is our current average annual performance there. And as we continue advancing this through different targeted initiatives, whether it be sport or with business, we expect to see this performance strengthen over time. The average daily rate is also a large indicator for us. This tells us that visitors aren't just coming, they're paying more per night in destination than they were previously. And this is also demonstrating demand. And this is coming from conference and sport efforts. And what we're seeing is better pricing power citywide. So that means all the hotels are able to make a little bit more and some more meaningful compression happening there. When we look at revenue per available room, this grew 10% this last year. And that's a combined effect of more rooms being filled and at higher rates. So that's great to see. Hoteliers in the city made more per room in 2025 than they did in 2024. That said, winter does still remain to be our largest gap. This remains to be the biggest challenge, but also the largest opportunity. So we did have a recent all accommodation meeting, which was really fantastic this last month. And all of the partners are working together to kind of target this issue. What can we do going forward? What can be some sustainable solutions? And how can we do that in a coordinated effort? The other challenge that we're seeing here is labor shortages. It's also impacting these particular partners through the industry. And so we are working with them and advocating through the BC Hotel Association, which has that direct line into the province. We know that having a healthier hotel community definitely generates more MRDT and supports measured growth long term. So we're always looking for ways to collaborate and work with them closely. Next slide, please. We were able to this past year through Destination Canada's local calculator, which takes in visitor spending that's coming in externally from the community. And so this last year ended with $371.5 million of visitor spending in Nanaimo. And that was a 3.7% increase from 2024. We were able to go back and look at that data. So this is not Nanaimo residents spending money in Nanaimo. This is quantified as external folks coming into community. Visitors from Vancouver, Alberta, Washington State, and across Canada. They're coming here, they spend here, and then that money is circulating through our restaurants, hotels, and retailers and recreational businesses. You can see on the slide there, it shows a percentage of that spend based on each category. And one of the things to look at there is that this is real value returning back into the city through multiple partners, multiple businesses. And each year, that money and people spending money then translates into $1.3 million in MRDT collected. As the industry continues to stabilize and see growth, we'll see that number grow. But that also means that the OAP that is used for affordable housing continues to grow alongside it. So each quarter we do roundtables with each of these sectors specifically. And what we've heard is that while visitation remains strong, shifting spending patterns show that reduced spend on experiences like whale watching, guided outdoor excursions, and retail is lower. And so this is signaling to us that we need to both protect these businesses and they're feeling that shift of spending, but that we also need more activations across the city to generate more folks coming through the doors willing to spend that money in those sectors. So while these numbers are healthy, we know that there is still stabilized growth and demand needed to support these businesses long term. Next slide, please. Now we're shifting from 2025 into 2026 and what we have going on this first quarter of the year. Next slide, please. So these 6 numbers here are just a quick summary of glance. We had about $500,000 in conference economic impact. That is only the number from the 4 contracted conferences that use the incentive that Tourism Nanaimo provides. The other 2 conferences that were hosted made sure that we had 1,200 delegates in the first quarter, which is our slowest season. So that was really great to see that growth. Filled hotel rooms, we got the restaurants going at the beginning of the year. Money well spent in the city. Then when we're looking over at sport, we had just over a little over $158,000 there as well, coming through economic impact. So there were 7 sport events supported across the different community facilities. This number is tracked using Destinations International's event impact calculator. It's an industry standard tool that we've now onboarded this year to ensure that our measurement is credible and consistent going forward. I do want to be transparent here, though, that the total impact is higher than what we have currently captured here, but we're still looking to improve our tracking as that matures and we get more data inputted into it. And this is true of both sport and for meetings for us. We did award 6 community events that were funded to the tune of $30,000. Those grants do double duty for us. So they bring in external visitors to Nanaimo and support local sporting organizations and community programming. So it's into its 2nd intake for this year already. So looking forward to seeing those events come to fruition. We also have 3 major campaigns in market right now. Break Spring, Escape the Noise, and Beyond Van Gogh are in these markets at the moment to generate more visitation in the coming months. Next slide, please. Just a quick glance here of who was in Nanaimo in the first quarter. Each and every one of these groups is part of our economic impact study. So you can see there on the slide, it shows what we were able to calculate and the two remaining that we were unable to calculate at this time, but we're working on that. Certainly this is a result of active sales work and the relationship building and the investment that we've been putting into trade shows and into the relationships of responding to RFPs and cold calling and chatting to anybody that we can to make sure that they're considering Nanaimo when they're looking at their events going forward. We did attend Ottawa Meet Week this past quarter. We invested $1,500 into that event, hosted 15 qualified meeting planners, and as a result, we got 3 on-the-spot RFPs at the time. We have 4 that are still incoming, and we are hosting 3 of those planners in a FAM tour to confirm them coming to Nanaimo to check out our location, to see how our events kind of space looks to them, and if they're willing to put in to have their event in Nanaimo. So for us, that's a measurable and immediate return on that investment going out to Ottawa. It's a huge event for us, and that always takes place in the first quarter. Next slide, please. So in Q1, if anyone was out and about, I'm sure that you noticed that there was plenty of folks in town for sport. There were 7 sport events activated across 5 major facilities this quarter. NIC, Bevan, Frank Crane, Dover Bay, the Aquatic Center, and at VIU. These are both city assets and community assets, and we're ensuring that they're keeping busy and surrounding businesses and neighborhoods are feeling that impact. One standout event was the CAA Men's Basketball Nationals at VIU that they brought forth. This was a great, I think, example of Team Nanaimo's approach to delivering fantastic events through the city and working together to secure high impact events. That pipeline is also supported by the Sport Hosting Grant, which we talked about previously. And more importantly, we've secured a national sporting event for the future. The MOU is signed. We have the working group active with the city, and details are to come on that for the community at large, but that impact will be significant when we see it come to fruition. Next slide, please. I just wanted to touch on, often people are most curious about marketing. This seems to be what people see out and about most. So right now we do have 3 targeted campaigns launched this quarter. Each were designed to convert opportunity into economic impact. We're capturing the spring travel demand, which was quite strong this year with the many things that were happening south of the border and even internationally. We've been leveraging FIFA congestion in Vancouver to position Nanaimo as a nearby escape, and using major cultural events like Beyond Van Gogh to shift perception and really drive that seasonal visitation this year. At the same time, we're building our audience, and with our website updates now live, we have a true front door now to start converting those into trips. We may have to recruit Councillor Manley on international markets going forward with his recent trip and success, however. So watch for a note from me. Next slide, please. What often gets missed when we're doing these quarterly reports to you is telling you about what's coming. So, you know, what's happened in the first quarter is now past, but certainly there is more to come. So the pipeline is where you see the compounding effect of our consistent sales and investments. We have conferences being hosted in May and in June of this year that were run months ago, if not years ago. The Creative Cities Summit in 2028 was one this quarter. And this is really how destination management is working. Long lead times, consistent effort, and then we get that cumulative return. The next 2 slides will show you exactly what we have confirmed here. Next slide, please. So for this next quarter, we have over 13 conferences secured, bringing over 3,600 delegates into Nanaimo in Q2 alone, all from outside the city. We've measured that at an estimated $2.1 million in direct economic impact. And this is certainly a result of deliberate, sustained sales work and investment in our national markets and relationships this past year. We've already secured future wins in national conferences booked for 2027 and 2028. And what we're seeing now is Nanaimo has made rotation, which is huge. we're now consistently being rebooked every other year or every 3 years through some of these partnerships that we've created. And that's definitely due to the Outside the Box BC initiative as well. And so what that looks like is conversion over the long time that we've been trying to work on this program specifically, and making sure that we're seeing those dollars come back into our local economy. Next slide, please. When we look at sport, sorry, I'm on the wrong slide. When we look at sport, we have 6 sporting events secured for this next bit through the grant program that we have. It's intentionally diverse, from provincials to community-led competitions. This isn't necessarily just about sport, it's also about activating community, bringing in visiting families, and reinforcing that Nanaimo is certainly a place where participation and performance both matter. We've been building that reputation. We also showed up nationally at the Sport Congress event alongside the city. Grace Bell went with Sydney, and we were able to be at the table with every major destination. So 19 national sport organizations were there, and we were able to ensure that Nanaimo was in the mix, have direct conversations, and really position ourselves as an opportunity and destination for consideration. With the most recent sport bid being awarded, it will be a defining moment certainly for Nanaimo's sport profile, but also what we're capable of. So that's a really exciting piece that we have now in play, and more importantly, this past quarter, but in this now next quarter, I should say, we will be launching Play in Nanaimo Toolkit and our destination video. So this is giving planners across the country a clear and compelling reason to come to Nanaimo, but also the tools so they understand exactly what they need to do to host here, the transportation partners that we have in play to support them, and the many venues that are here that are definitely great places for them to play and to experience Nanaimo. Next slide, please. I did want to spend a moment on FIFA specifically because it comes up in every conversation about 2026. So we've been very direct about our position in this landscape. Nanaimo is not a FIFA host city. We're not pretending to be, and we're not investing in that narrative. But what we do have is genuinely valuable. We are 70 minutes from Vancouver by fast ferry. We have heli, float planes, and of course BC ferries. We have accommodation capacity, and we have waterfront and outdoor experiences that are the opposite of the congested FIFA game day city. And we have direct access to multiple transportation modes. So what that looks like, and the reason for Escape the Noise, is it's a campaign grounded in real market insights. So Vancouverites who want to get away during FIFA will be looking for exactly what Nanaimo can offer during that same period. We're not competing with Vancouver. Instead, we're positioning ourselves as the relief valve for that event. And the honest answer is that if we were to chase FIFA host status and try and be something more, it wouldn't be cost effective. So instead, we're making sure that our behavior and our in-market messaging is playing to our strengths and what we can deliver on during that period of time. The transportation partnership that we have going to support this initiative is important, and I do want to call that out. We've been working with BC Ferries, Hullo, Sea Air, and Devon Transport. They're all in this campaign with us, which isn't just good marketing, it's also connecting us back to the city as a connected Nanaimo strategy, which is a priority. And we are literally building the case that Nanaimo is accessible, connected, and easy to reach on a much larger audience. With critical partners like this working alongside us, we were able to leverage Nanaimo and ensure that we were part of the same day game day dispersion strategy, which is encouraging folks to leave Vancouver as part of their international trip to Vancouver, and Nanaimo is positioned as one of those destinations for them to come to. Certainly, we're looking at always our market signals. On the lower half of this slide, we talk about our drive market in BC, of course, our ferry markets from BC and Washington, and our air opportunities with Alberta and Washington. Next slide, please. One thing I think is important to always bring to light is really that we are not working in silo. We operate in a parallel universe from the city's strategic plan. So every program we run, every campaign we launch, every event that we work to attract alongside partners. It's all connecting back to the city's 4 pillars, which are our own pillars in destination strategy and development. And so the next slide really shows how that delivers across these 4. So the 4 outcomes is one system delivering results. We know that a prosperous Nanaimo is really, you know, the biggest takeaway for us here is the economic activity that we're able to generate in Q1, and really the confirmed pipeline that we have moving forward. A healthy Nanaimo, certainly the support of the sport and culture activations and community grants that we're putting forth and working with partners there. An empowered Nanaimo, we're embedding partnership in practice, working alongside Cinemac and introducing different partnerships with arts and culture, pride, and community-led programming. And then in Connected Nanaimo, just stronger alignment overall with our transportation partners, digital tools, and making Nanaimo more accessible and easier to choose in the areas that we work within. It's definitely a coordinated system that we're trying to ensure that we're working as closely with our community partners, but also alongside the city at the same time. Next slide, please. So 3 numbers that I'd like to kind of chat about here is really where we kind of see the return that we have right now. So 52.5 million in annual visitor spending, that was in Q1. So Q2 is already starting to come in, and those numbers are looking strong. We know now that we have the confirmed impact of Q1 of $684,000 in new money coming in for second quarter. And again, looking at that forecasting of 2.1 million in economic impact in the second quarter. Next slide, please. So what's in the pipeline? The team is certainly off running. So in here you can see that we have a high conversion sales plan in place. We're doing a FAM tour, bringing qualified decision makers to Nanaimo. This is targeted business development expected to convert directly into future bookings with conferences and meeting planners. We are working on Reconciliation in Action with City Section campaign, are co-created with Cinemac partners in advancing Indigenous storytelling and aligning with Council's Empowered Nanaimo priorities. We're also looking at preliminary discussions around a co-developed destination management plan for tourism as it relates specifically to Cinemac activity and Indigenous tourism experiences. Again, going forward, stronger accountability. Our new CRM systems going forward, they are now live, and they significantly improve how we can track leads, measure impact of our work, and so our reporting results back to council will continue to get stronger here. This is certainly about making sure that the partnerships and the work that we're doing is coming back in better data and driving stronger outcomes for Nanaimo overall. Next slide, please. Here we are. I got to the end, and I think I kept on time. Certainly, we're continuing to align our mandate and goals with the city, with community partners. We're listening. We have quarterly roundtables to ensure that the data and information that we're collecting is grounded not only in numbers, but also quantified by experience that we're hearing from folks at the front door. And going forward, that's just the way that we're going to continue to work to ensure that the plans and things that we're putting into motion really see the results that the community needs to see. And with that, I'll take any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Or pardon me, because of
the microphones are still not working.
Just so you know, this is mucked up as well.
That's right.
Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I only wanted to. Oh, and now it's off and it's on. I was first put on this when I first came on council back in early 2023, and I have to tell you, the meetings are so exciting with Ms. Parabon there, and all the board members show up, and it's 2 hours worth of just a huge amount of activity and talk, and it's so impressive. I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, this was a lot of information tonight, and that's only your first quarter, so thank you so much. Appreciate all the work.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, through you. Quick question, the Creative Cities Summit, is that the same as the Capicoa Summit for the Arts? Is that what they call it now, Creative Cities?
Potentially, I don't want to speak out of turn on that, but it could be
Okay.
the same event. But this is the first time, my understanding is this is the first time that Nanaimo's been able to host it.
Yeah, it's the first time it's been outside of a major city.
Yeah.
So kudos for getting that one. That's a win. Yeah, great presentation. Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Paraboom, for being here. Your presentations are always so fascinating and full of great information for us to chew on. My question for you is related to the art gallery. The folks at the gallery, the board, are doing some really great, innovative work, and I know they're really looking to expand. What is the role of Tourism Nanaimo in supporting the art gallery, which I understand also does a lot of data collection in terms of dollars spent when people come to see exhibitions?
The art gallery is such an absolute gem for us in the city. It is a huge draw for us, and working alongside not only the art gallery and their initiatives and making sure that we're amplifying that. So we organically push that through our newsletters that go out to visitors of interest and people that have already been to the city that may want to return. And then of course, highlighting it through different blogs. The other, I would say the other option there that I think is really important too is the work that the city is doing for also smaller art programs that then attach to what the art gallery is doing. I think this last exhibit was a really great example of that. But certainly there's always more opportunity to pull and draw on that audience more, because there's so much that's happening there. And I think that that can become a very niche product for us to talk about more in the next I would even say next quarter. And certainly our roundtable brought a lot of opportunities up in that first roundtable quarter meeting that highlighted the arts and culture opportunities, specifically what the art gallery has going on. So I know that the marketing team is working on making sure that we have more media coverage on that.
Thank you, Ms. Paraboom. Appreciate the answer.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other questions. Appreciate the presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next item are committee minutes. It's just the minutes of the Finance and Audit Committee meeting held in the Shaw Auditorium on Wednesday, February the 18th. They're for receipt only. We have no consent items. Item 11, we have two delegations unrelated to agenda items, and the first is Raylan Crossley, re the parking bylaw. Ms. Crossley, please come down to the mic. Right in the center. You'll have 5 minutes. If you can, when you get to the mic, I'll ask you to introduce yourself for the record, and when there's a minute left, I'll let you know.
Okay.
If you take
I'm
that
Raylan Crossley, and I'm really upset about the way the city is being handled. It seems like everywhere I look, there's nonsense. But anyhow, I was born here in the old hospital, and I've lived here all my life. And the street that I grew up on, and I still live there, it's 24/7 sirens going by. When I look around in the downtown Nanaimo, it's a sad scene. Very sad what's going on. And it's unreal that what's going on. But anyhow, I got here about the bylaw. I got a fine because I parked for more than 24 hours on my street. Right in front of my house, there's now a city bed that you know, if I want it to look nice, I'm the one that weeds it and waters it on my dime. But anyhow, I got a fine for parking for more than 24 hours. It was probably there for 2 days or something. and I've talked to a guy from the city, and he said that, well, you know, like, it's public property. Well, I am the public, sorry. And I pay the taxes, and yet I can't park in front of my house. And really, actually, it's not right in front, it's next door usually. They have parking down below in the alley, but, so there is parking that you can park there, but I know there's something in the wind. They've already hired somebody, maybe to form this committee or something to figure out whether there's going to be exemptions so that you have, I don't know what the criteria or anything like that. And he was trying to talk me out of coming to this meeting, but I said, well, I need some answers, you know, like, what would it take? Like, he said, well, people spend $300 a month to work in Nanaimo downtown area, and I said, you know, like, we're one of the cities on this island where everywhere you look, you gotta pay for parking. I don't know why, like the business, like when they tore up the downtown street, on Commercial Street, they were struggling like crazy, you know, and yet there's still parking, you know, like people have to pay for parking. Like, to me, when you put in things like that, like, you're just creating a downtown skid row. That's what it looks like. That's, to me, that's what it looks like. And, you know, when I have to, like, maybe get an exemption, that would be really nice, but I think everybody should, if they pay taxes, if they live there, it should be, there's no time limit on it. Like, you know, I think the city of Nanaimo are 29 bylaw officers, so there's enough of them to go around and just make sure that nobody's living in their camper on the street or whatever, although there's a lot of that going on because people can't afford to live.
1 minute left.
Anyhow, I think there should be no time limit, but if it comes down to, it should be nothing less than a month, you know, because, I mean, people get sick, you know, like I said to him, okay, so I'm sick and I've got to go get up and go out and move my car, and to move it to where? It's just crazy. It's just another example, I think, that slowly but surely and insidiously we're losing our rights, our human rights. We can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this, and now we can't park in front of our friggin' houses. I don't know.
Ms. Crosley, your time is up. If you could wrap up.
But I would like, if this, you know, if this whole process is going to be 2 years before you figure out, then I think instead of 24 hours, it should be no time limit, and then put something in place in 2 years or whatever it's going to take you guys. So anyhow, it's just nonsense everywhere I looked. Everywhere.
Thank you very much.
Today I got turned around and...
Ms. Crosley,
Oh,
it's a 5-minute delegation. I don't see any questions for you tonight.
It's not all rosy in Nanaimo.
Thank you.
It's not.
The next delegation is Lois Powell, re-proposed municipal boundary extension alternative approval process. Ms. Powell, if you could introduce yourself for the record, you'll have 5 minutes, and when there's a minute left, I'll let you know. Please.
Lois Powell. I'm here to question the proposed municipal boundary extension to include the Forest Nanaimo First Nation reserves using the alternative approval process to inform eligible electors. Only 25% of eligible electors voted in the 2022 election. AAP requires no action from those in favor, while placing the full burden on those who oppose to come forward and submit a formal objection. Reaching the required 7,956 signatures to oppose the boundary extension would be impossible. Will residents be fully informed about the potential impacts, or will they only learn the full consequences after decisions have already been made? Referendum would provide transparent and inclusive process that gives all electors, whether in support or opposition, an equal voice. I know the cost. This boundary extension has very little to do with the reserve lands, as it does not matter if they are included in the region RDN or in the city of Nanaimo. The reserve lands will remain exempt from municipal property taxation. Petroglyph Development Corp., owned by the Nanaimo First Nation, is able to develop on reserve lands where income generated is exempt from income tax and municipal property taxation. There has been a 700% increase in SFN land base since 2009. Example, Mount Benson, DND, and Stanton to mention a few. According to the city, this initiative aims to align with advancing reconciliation efforts by enabling SFN members living on these reserve lands to participate in municipal elections and ensure equitable access to local decision-making. snuneymo.ca/CP. Videos, lots, highlight details on each parcel, setting out the potential uses for each area. Hundreds of acres of high-traffic land will be available with Nanaimo as the master planner. 10 parcels of fee simple land within the municipality have been given to the SFN outside the reserve system. These lands are subject to municipal property taxation. To name a couple, the casino. SFN took over operations and management. Does the city get any funds from the casino? I don't know. There's more property, Stewart Avenue Marina, Tally-Ho Howard Johnson property, land in Maffeo Sutton Park, and there are potential additions are currently being explored. Newcastle Island, Station, and Ferry are listed as a future addition, mentioned in the video. The city sold the park to the province for $1 with the stipulation the island would remain a provincial marine park. There will be legal ramifications if the province gives the island to the SFN to develop as reserve land. If there are clear benefits for both the city and the SFN, they should be openly communicated so the public can fully understand and evaluate the proposal before a decision is made. This is about DRIPA and land claims. Nothing to do with reserve lands, as they will remain federal jurisdiction, tax-free Crown land. The province is still in the middle of an uncertainty about DRIPA. Premier David Eby has proposed possible changes, while others are calling for its repeal. Residents are hearing mixed messages, and that creates real concern. People are worried about property rights. They are unsure what the changes could mean long-term, and many are hesitant to even ask questions for fear of being seen as opposing reconciliation. But asking questions is not opposition. It is responsible citizenship. So it is fair to ask, how are these broader principles being applied here at the local level? Before moving forward with something as significant as boundary extension, residents deserve clarity, transparency, and a full understanding of the impacts. This is not about being against reconciliation. It is about making informed decisions together as a community. You probably don't have any questions. I hope you've all gone to see that snuneymo.ca/CP.
Thank you. If you could wrap up, your time is up.
Yep, my time's up. I live, volunteer, and play on the land called the City of Nanaimo.
Thank you. Not seeing any questions. Thank you for your presentation. The next are administrative reports. The first is the Green Municipal Fund Growing Canada's Community Canopies. Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the city has an opportunity to submit an application to the Green Municipal Fund Growing Community Canopies. So this funds up to a maximum of 80% of eligible costs to a maximum of $175,000. The application deadline is April 15th, and notice of awards will be given within 90 days of the deadline. Staff would like to submit an application to help fund the City of Nanaimo's urban forestry management strategy that was last updated in 2010. That has a $175,000 budget, so potential funding from this grant stream is $140,000 with a $35,000 cost to the city. So the project is not currently in the 2026 to 2030 financial plan, but if a successful grant bid is received, the financial plan will be updated to include this project and the associated grant funding. So staff are looking for council's approval to submit the grant application as outlined in the recommendation and to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any questions. Councillor Hemmons had moved. Councillor Perino seconds. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. We're on to development reports, item 13, and the first is development variance permit application number DVP 493-3135 Mexicana Road. Mr. Holm, you're here tonight. I don't believe this needs the new rules introduction, all right. I'm asking if there's anyone here who wishes to speak to development variance permit application number DVP 493-3135 Mexicana Road. Not seeing anyone. Someone care to make the recommended motion? Councillor Manley, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. The next is 13B, rezoning application number RA 521-2565 Departure Bay Road. We have 3 delegations on this matter. The first is Nicole Smith. Sorry. Oh, Councillor Gesselbrock. Yes, sorry.
If I could recuse myself from the decision for reasons of perceived conflict of interest, the property owner is a partner of the financial management firm and a client.
Your mic isn't working, Councillor Gesselbrock. No, still not. Sorry about that.
Everybody's dead now.
I'm just recusing myself from the decision for reasons of perceived conflict of interest. The property owner is a partner of the financial management firm I'm a client of.
All right. The first delegation is Nicole Smith. Ms. Smith, you've heard what has been said before as a delegation. 5 minutes. Introduce yourself for the record, and when there's a minute left, I'll let you know. Thank you and welcome.
You get the stand-up. Maybe you could sit.
Hello.
Much better. Thank you.
So good evening, Mayor Krog, as well as other council members here today. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Dr. Nicole Smith. I am a specialist physician working in the Nanaimo community, both at the hospital and at my outpatient office. I am a wife and a mother of 2 boys, and I'm speaking here tonight after working a 10-hour shift at the hospital today and hiring a babysitter to watch my 2 boys as my husband is away at work. I hope this demonstrates to you how important I felt it was for me to be here this evening, speaking with all of you. I moved to Nanaimo 8 years ago from Vancouver following finishing my residency. I chose to move to Nanaimo for several reasons. One of the most important was the welcoming and close-knit medical community. But in addition to this was the affordability in comparison to Vancouver. Moving to Nanaimo offered us the opportunity to consider a yard for our children and to live in close proximity to the ocean, be close to nature, and have space for our family to grow. When my husband and I came to look at places to move to, we fell in love with the Departure Bay neighborhood. It had character, was a well-established neighborhood. Their properties were large with lots of room, many trees, and greenery with a friendly and tight-knit community. Close to the ocean with ocean views. It was an ideal location. Offering the ability for walking was also close to the hospital, which was important to me. We settled on a newer property on Lindburn Crescent and immediately fell in love. During the 8 years that we lived in Departure Bay, we developed very close and long-lasting relationships with our neighbors and other residents of the community. And while we thought about moving during these 8 years, we ultimately made the decision that this would be our forever home, and we planned on doing a few upgrades in the backyard to make it exactly what we wanted for the long run. And then Bill 44 happened. Our neighbor directly to the right of us, who owned an expansive property, unfortunately passed away. And his property was sold, and while we were never naive to the fact that this property would likely be developed, we were under the presumption that development would be in line similar to our own home, which was the result of a subdivision into 3 properties still allowing for space and yards, as well as keeping the homes in scale with the rest of the neighborhood. However, Bill 44 certainly threatened this presumption for a new development vastly bigger than what we were expecting, and then the new owners came forward with a request to zone it for even more. This revelation was absolutely devastating for us. Not only for such a rezoning and resulting development to negatively affect the community by increasing traffic, threatening safety for our children and pedestrians, affecting our environment, the infrastructure, but also directly affecting us, since the rezoning would happen right beside us. This would affect our privacy, noise levels, my children's safety, our views, as well as the value of our property. And while my husband and I waited for council to meet about this rezoning proposal, we debated as to what to do and recognized how profound a rezoning to R7 would not only negatively affect our beloved neighborhood, but our family personally, given their proximity to us. Based on what we had seen with what appeared to be any request for rezoning being approved, we decided not to gamble with our family's well-being and future, and we put our house up for sale. Ultimately, we sold our property. And even though we have moved and settled in a new community, I promised my neighbors that I would show up whenever council decided to meet. So here I am. I'm here to tell you that the sole reason we sold our property and left the Departure Bay neighborhood was the potential for an R7 rezoning. We are the victims of this trend that we see in the city, where a provincial mandate is being taken advantage of, where housing is being crammed, as it seems, into every nook and cranny of the city, without consideration for how this affects the lives and well-being of the residents who already live there. We understand housing is needed, and we are not debating this. But what myself and the rest of the neighborhood would like to point out is that R5 zoning for this property should be sufficient. This will already allow the property owners to build multi-units, meeting the province's mandate. Rezoning to R7 we feel is completely unnecessary. This would only serve to negatively affect the community and would not be in keeping with the scale and character of the homes and properties in the rest of the neighborhood. As I'm sure you are aware, the builder that owns the property on the adjacent corner of the Lindburn did not request rezoning to R7, and he's building multi-units within the R5 zoning. So I ask you earnestly this evening, why is an R7 rezoning needed? I think we all are intellectual enough to understand that the R7 request is really what it comes down to, about money. This is about squeezing every cent possible out of an R7 development by jamming as many units onto this piece of land as physically will allow. Is this really considering the benefit of the neighborhood, and is a rezoning like this taking into consideration the opinions and voices of the existing community? In closing today, I kindly ask members of the council to please hear our voices this evening. While I understand you have many pressures from many avenues in regards to a decision like this, and that BC and Vancouver Island specifically is growing, you also have the power to control that growth and in what ways this growth will affect the lives of those of us who already live in these neighborhoods. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, but please, I indicated earlier, folks, it's a meeting of council. I'm not seeing any questions for the delegation, thank you. The next is Rob Dykstra. Mr. Dykstra, I think you've heard the drill, 5 minutes. When there's a minute left, I'll let you know. And if you could just introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Krogh. I timed myself at 247 seconds, so we'll see if I can stick to that. So, anyways, good evening, Mayor Krogh and councillors. My name is Rob Dykstra. I live at 2531 Lindburn Crescent in Nanaimo. Across the road from the rear of the property at 2565 Departure Bay Road, where the owners are seeking rezoning from Residential 5 to Residential 7. I would briefly, before I go any further, like to acknowledge the work and the leadership related to this matter provided by our neighbor and longtime Lindburn resident Bob Carpenter, who died February 23rd. Bob was a proud citizen of the Departure Bay neighborhood. He stood tall, and as many of you probably experienced firsthand, he was a force to be reckoned with. We miss him, but we like to assume his spirit is with us. I also want to thank all of the councillors for visiting the Lindburn neighborhood some time ago, a year and a half ago now, and viewing the properties in question, and meeting with us shortly after this proposal was first unveiled, which was in September 19th, 2024. To put it more gently than perhaps Bob Carpenter might have, we, a significant number of residents in the Lindburn/Departure Bay area, are urging council to reject the application to rezone the property in question. Residents are proud to live in this part of the city and are emotional about maintaining its livable character. We are not against new development and infill housing in our neighborhood, but we believe the current R5 zoning as mandated by the provincial government is sufficient to allow a controlled and a gentle densification that would allow infrastructure involving roads and sidewalks and green spaces to keep up, and also comply with a premise in the Nanaimo City Plan, and I quote, to encourage infill of residential lots designed to complement existing neighborhood character. The address of the property in question, 2565 Departure Bay Road, the address is that, but access to the proposed now 19-unit 3-story townhouse development would be on Strongatharm, a short street perpendicular to and connecting Departure Bay Road to Lindburn Crescent. Access to Departure Bay Road is already difficult because of heavy speeding traffic and a blind corner to the south. Much of the traffic will thus funnel onto the surrounding residential streets to the detriment of people out walking with their pets, kids on bikes, mothers pushing strollers, all of which are common sights on Lindburn. You are no doubt aware of a petition signed by 168 neighborhood residents objecting to the rezoning of the stated property. I am aware that others have written concerns directly to Mayor and Council. We trust that you are also aware of 42 comment sheets from residents originally distributed by the agent for the property owner at a somewhat noisy meeting at Departure Bay Kinhut, September 19, 2024. In other words, I believe I can say there's a lot of opposition to this rezoning proposal. Never mind R7, the rezoning from R1 to R5 is already a major change. In an effort to increase housing stock, it provides, and I quote from the city's website, for the development of small-scale multiple-family residential dwellings of up to 4 units that are compatible with the scale or enhance the architectural style of single-family residential development in the area. We can live with that. And this is in fact already happening in our area under the R5 status. Precedents have been set. I am aware of 5 of the large properties, approximately an acre, in the 2400 block of Departure Bay Road, which back onto Lindburn Crescent, that have been subdivided or are about to be subdivided so that some of the new housing units will face Departure Bay Road and some will face Lindburn Crescent or one of the side streets. The Lindburn side of the subdivisions maintains the R5 zoning and thus adhere to the neighborhood's form and character. No R7 is needed here. For instance, one property bounded by Departure Bay Road, Sandringham Avenue, and Lindburn now has 6 detached units and a duplex. Before, it had 1 house. Another property bounded by Departure Bay Road, Argyle, and Lindburn has recently been approved for multiple units to replace 1 house. This appears to be in keeping with the scale and architectural style of the neighborhood, all under the R5 zoning. So we trust you will give our concerns serious consideration and ultimately reject this application. Yes, you have a provincial housing quota to fill, but you also have responsibilities to the people who already live there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I'm not.
I have a question.
Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. Were you aware there was a covenant on those properties previously?
Yes. Was I aware if there was a covenant?
Yes.
Yes.
And did you speak to that covenant when it went to court?
No, no, I didn't live in Nanaimo when that covenant went to court. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions. Mr. Dykstra, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And the last delegation is Don Duddridge. So, look, please. Mr. Duddridge, you've heard the drill. 5 minutes, sir, and when there's a minute left, I'll let you know. If you could introduce yourself for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship and council members. I thank you for listening to me this evening. My name is Don Duddridge. I live with my wife Daphne at 2521 Lindburn Crescent, and we have lived there for close to 50 years. I would like to take just a moment to acknowledge the passing of Bob Carpenter. I believe he was a Nanaimo one-of-a-kind, passionate citizen, and we're at a loss tonight in defending our neighborhood without him beside us. But I'm sure he's out there somewhere cheering us on. Sometimes something beautiful deserves preserving simply for the joy it brings to people. The original vision for Lindburn was for individualistic houses in a family-friendly neighborhood with large, matured, treed lots and tranquil ocean views. It was to be a jewel in Nanaimo, and where people would come to walk and enjoy the neighborhood that had been created. And people do that still, even though it's eroding. It's slowly eroding. We were the first to lose our view, which we treasured. It was blotted out by two incongruous blocks directly across from us on Lindburn Crescent several years ago. And that happened because as Bob Carpenter and I agreed, a foreign buyer came into Nanaimo and worked like heck to get the building covenant overturned by getting 10 people on that side of the road to sign up with him to go to court. They went to court. Yes, I went to the court when it was overturned. I didn't make a presentation there, but I found out that not only was this foreign buyer involved, but city planners were cheering him on. So now we have the two houses directly across from us. We have more that have been built up the crescent. We have more that are in the process of being built. And now we have this totally unacceptable plan for R7. This plan is neither kid-friendly, with increased crowding and speeding traffic all over the area, nor, I think, is it affordable. If anybody can give me a definition of what affordable means in this day and age, I'd be happy to listen. Hopefully, we can be far-sighted enough in cases like this to heed Canadian folk singer Joni Mitchell's warning before we pave paradise to put up a concrete block. Do I have a bit of time left?
You've got 1:47 seconds.
Oh, well, I'm reminded tonight by one of our delegation that I made a presentation similar to this in March of 2016. So if you would like to know my real feelings about this whole thing, I would encourage you to look it up in your archives and read it through. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Not seeing any questions. Any questions for staff on this? Councillor Perino, are you? Doesn't look like it.
Can we just, it's just hard to maneuver, it's heavy, and a question through you, Your Worship, to staff. As I'm reading the report, you've got R5 as being single residential dwelling, duplex, multi-family dwelling, and R7 as row house. So that I'm not sure that I understand what the actual difference is. When you're talking multi-level dwelling, the way I read this report is that you could literally have as many units or close to as many units in an R5 as you can in an R7, and I'm wondering if you could just explain that.
Sure, through your worship to Councillor Perino. Yeah, so the R5 zoning permits 4 units on every lot. If the property were subdivided, the applicants demonstrated that, and it's not been through a subdivision application, but that potentially you'd be looking at creating 5 lots from the existing parcel. So similar number of unit yield, potentially 4 units per lot. In the case of the proposed rezoning, they're proposing a row house form.
Yes.
So different form of housing, but
yes.
So rather than 4 units on each individual lot, they're proposing row house style. In the case of the R7, there would be a development permit as well to sort of guide the form and character of the development, but potentially a similar unit yield as would be realized through subdivision under the R5.
So in fact, because it's 5 lots, they could in fact build 20 homes on that piece of property. Is that correct?
Sorry, through your worship, I'll just clarify, it's currently 1 lot. It would take a subdivision to be approved.
Yes.
To create, it looks like it's feasible. It hasn't been vetted through a subdivision application, but it looks like it's feasible to create 5 lots.
Okay.
That would not involve council decision. That would just be under existing zoning.
So it could be close. It could be close in the number of houses. Okay.
Yeah, the applicants demonstrated it could be similar yield.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. And also just another question about the height of these homes, because it was just interesting listening to Mr. Duddridge about losing the view. And in fact, if this was subdivided in any way for any type of home, they could lose their view as well. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Perino again, and yeah, if the property were subdivided or additional development were to occur on the property under the current situation, they could put additional units on the property now without subdividing.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't speak to view implications without having reviewed any details, but the building height under the existing zoning, a maximum of 10.5 meters, and under the proposed R7, there's a maximum of 10.5 meters as well.
It's exactly the same.
Similar. Hard to comment without looking at a detailed proposal, but there's potential for development under existing zoning similarly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'm going to assume Councillor Armstrong, it doesn't work, does it? Yes.
Mine was working. It's working, yeah.
Lucky you.
Not that I need a mic, but yes. So my question is, when we compare R5 to R7, I'm assuming, based on what you said, if they were able to put the 20 units, they would require the same amount of parking?
I believe the per unit rate would be comparable. Yeah.
Thank you. And then my last question, were you aware of the covenant? And if so, what would the covenant have been for that was ruled to be dissolved by the courts?
So, through your worship to Councillor Armstrong, I don't have the details of the covenant, but my understanding, there was a private building scheme, so the city wasn't a party to it, and it prevented subdivision or further development of those larger double fronting parcels that fronted Departure Bay to Lynburn.
And so my understanding would be when that went through the courts, that anybody in opposition would have had the opportunity to speak to it at the hearing, is that correct?
Through your worship, I believe so, but the city wasn't involved in the process, and I couldn't speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Perino, you've spoken already. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to staff, I'm a little concerned about the CAC being so low. Can you outline your rationale for that, please?
Sure, through your worship to Councillor Hemmons. So in this case, the applicant has suggested that a CAC is not a community amenity charge, is not shouldn't be anticipated, because similarly to the conversation about what could be developed under existing zoning, if the property were to be subdivided, a similar unit yield could be realized. So typically we look at a community amenity contribution being provided for additional density being realized. In this case, they're suggesting that it would be similar density, so there shouldn't be a community amenity contribution. What they've proposed, and staff are supportive of that proposal given the comparison. They're proposing approximately $12,500 contribution towards pedestrian improvements on the Strongth-Arm Departure Bay intersection if the development were to proceed.
Thank you. I don't like that the CAC is so low. In the rationale stated in the report, the applicant submitted a CAC rationale indicating no amenity contribution is warranted due to the project scope, negligible increase in density relative to the existing R5 zoning. But then you go on to say that that while it's reasonable to infer that the site could indeed accommodate 16 to 20 units through subdivision through the R5 zone, potential development yield under existing zoning remains theoretical and can't be confirmed without a subdivision application and full technical review. So it's hard for me to hear the proponent leaning on that rationale when they actually haven't gone through the process to figure out if that rationale actually holds water. So just stating my personal preference, I think the CAC is far too low on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley, are you?
Yep.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Through you, as part of this zoning and development, would there be sidewalks? The developer would have to put sidewalks on Lindburn, Strongth-Arm, and Departure Bay?
Through your worship to Councillor Manley, correct, yeah, through either subdivision, if the property were subdivided under current zoning, or if the property were rezoned and redeveloped, there would be frontage works expected. The details would have to be proven out through the development review process, and would be in compliance with the city's manual of engineering standards and specifications. But yeah, that would generally be what we'd see as frontage improvements through either subdivision, or if the property were rezoned through and not subdivided, then through the building development.
And this block, like the whole strip along Departure Bay, is designated neighborhood in the community official community plan, and that would include apartment buildings up to 4 stories. If this was developed in a different way, could they, like with apartment buildings, could they get a higher floor area ratio for this piece of land with a different kind of development?
Yes, through your worship to Councillor Manley. So the community plan designation is neighborhood.
Yep.
It does support up to 4-story apartment format. Also ground-oriented form of housing as well, similar to what's proposed here, obviously, or as consistent with what's proposed here. So yeah, difficult to comment on a hypothetical, but the community plan in theory supports apartment style and up to 4-story form.
And has there been, with this plan on Departure Bay Road, are there plans, sorry, through you, for additional traffic lights or traffic calming in this area? We hear about speeding, the Blind Hill. There's no sidewalks on a lot of these, a lot of Departure Bay Road. Are there considerations for a light at Strongth-Arm, or maybe at Argyle, or has that been considered? Have there been traffic studies done for densifying this area?
Well, through your worship, not for this development. If you're talking more generally, what improvements might be planned, I could look to my colleague, Mr. Sims, to speak to that. But no, this development would not warrant or trigger any upgrades as suggested.
Okay. Yeah, I am curious about that because it's been flagged by a number of people.
Actually, Worship, just briefly, I don't believe there are any plans for traffic lights at these side streets, and I would suggest that we would look at doing some more narrowing of Departure Bay or trying to just calm the traffic that way rather than have traffic lights, further traffic lights down Departure Bay Road.
Okay.
I think, as Mr. Holmes suggested, an additional 20 units is not really an awful impact or increase in traffic at all.
Okay. Yeah, just based on the comments we've heard and the townhouses that are just down the road that are going in as well, we've done some other rezoning in this area that eventually that may be the case. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, are you good?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to staff. What is the FAR on the concept plan included in the package?
I believe it's 0.7 floor area ratio.
Okay.
So, yeah, that would be consistent with what's permitted under the R7 without without the density bonusing Schedule D provisions.
Okay, so if that's 0.7, if the zoning was approved tonight, it could potentially come in at 1.05?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and was there any discussion with the applicant on limiting it to the lower number?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Holm, if you can tell me, Mr. Dudridge made a point about the subdivision, Lindburn itself, being part of the city of Nanaimo. Was it in the city boundary at the time it was created? Do you know?
I am not sure of the, sorry, Your Worship, I'm not sure of the timing of that. It could have been outside. I'd have to check on the timing.
I think it came in with amalgamation, but I could be wrong. We don't have a motion on the floor. Are there any other questions for staff this time? Councillor Perino?
I think it's on. I think it's on.
Keep a mic in.
Oh, come on. Where's your sense of adventure? Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, no, I think it's okay. I'll leave it there. The designs that we're seeing, they are preliminary. So how could they change?
Thank you, through Your Worship, to Councillor Perino. So, yeah, they are a concept plan. It's difficult to say how they could change, but they've done fairly high-level concept that if the zoning were approved, would go through a development permit process.
Yes. Yes.
So there'd be a development permit review. It would include, there'd be, I guess, part of the concept here, the proposal and the idea behind the rezoning is to present a cohesive a plan for the property.
Okay.
That would go through a form and character review with, and would have a comprehensive landscape plan and the like. I can't comment on exactly what could be developed, but
yes.
in theory, this concept would be close to moving forward to a development permit stage review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe, if I can get you as acting mayor to read the recommended motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. As acting mayor, I will read the recommended motion and bylaw to move things along, but I will wish to speak to it at second reading. So I will move that zoning amendment bylaw 2026 number 4500.250 to rezone 2565 Departure Bay Road from 3 and 4 unit residential R5 to row house residential R7 pass first reading.
Seconder? Seconded, Councillor. Seconded, Councillor Hemmons. Discussion? wait till second reading? Okay. All those in favor? Sorry, Councillor Brown? We don't have to, but it's been our general practice. It's up to you if you want to speak to it now.
I'll wait for a second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Councillors Armstrong, Hemmens, Krog, Mayor Krog, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Perino, Councillor Brown, Councillor Manley. And those opposed? Councillor Eastmere, thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the bylaw pass second reading.
And seconded, Councillor Hemmens. Discussion, Council. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, Your Worship. First of all, I do really hear the community's concerns on this one, and actually a lot of them. I do have a general worry that we are creating neighborhoods that aren't going to be all that pleasant for a lot of people, and all in the name of housing, which again is an important thing. And the hardest decisions are always when there's value conflicts, and you can see the reason for things both ways. With that said, I actually think, and I'm not going to make a motion right now because I do want to hear what my fellow councillors have to say. I do think there's supportable elements of this application at the lower end of the spectrum with respect to the FAR. I do have concerns if under the Schedule D, where they could potentially go up to 1.05 FAR if the zoning is approved. And so I think it's entering into, I think, a different type of form that I wouldn't really want to see in this particular neighborhood. I'm aware that there has been in the neighborhood, and I do think there should probably be limits on that. So I'll see what my fellow councillors would say, but as the zoning's crafted now, I won't support it just because of the 1.05 FAR that would be permitted despite the concept plans in the agenda. I think if that's the intent, sending it back to staff and the development proponent to place a restriction on that would be the appropriate thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to support the second reading of this bylaw. When council is faced with rezoning applications, each one is different, and I like to examine each one and base each one on its own merits or demerits. And like other councillors, I have visited this site. I've talked to some of the neighbors. I know there's strong opposition to this proposal. And quite frankly, I feel that opposition is warranted. I think the neighbors have been quite reasonable in their approach. They recognize that increased density is a fact of life in our city. They're okay. They might not like it, but they're okay with the R5 designation for 3 and 4 residential units per lot. But to bump that up to R7, I just don't think is appropriate or necessary for big blocks of row housing in this neighborhood. And one of the speakers, one of the delegations mentioned that a development should complement the existing character of the neighborhood. This absolutely does not. So I would prefer council to hear and look at a proposal for an R5 development where we could look at it and make suggestions. I think that the local improvements would happen anyway, things such as sidewalks. So to me, R7 is just going too far. It's not so much the numbers involved in the density, as Councillor Perino was alluding to. To me, quite frankly, it's the look of the project, and I just don't see it fitting in that beautiful neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question for staff, if you don't mind, prompted by Councillor Brown. Can you tell me why we wouldn't do a site, I'm going to get my language incorrect here. Sometimes when we move into a higher zone, we'll do a site-specific, where we lock the developer into saying, yes, that's what you said you're going to do. There's no wiggle room. Why didn't we do that if we're giving them, if we're, in theory, upgrading their zoning?
Yeah, that's through your worship to Councillor Hemmons. I can't say why we didn't do that. I think that the zone is appropriate for the city plan designation. Typically, we try to avoid site-specific zoning. I know it happens from time to time, but generally, if a zone meets an existing zone meets the requirements of a development proposal, and it's consistent with the official community plan, we wouldn't bring it forward if it wasn't, but would allow development consistent with the official community plan. We typically wouldn't put a density limiting provision in place. So I wasn't involved in conversations that I can't confirm that there wasn't discussion around that, but we didn't bring forward a site-specific density restriction. So considering the zoning is consistent with, would result in development consistent with the city plan, with the community plan, didn't feel the need for that.
Okay, thank you. So I heard development is consistent with city plan. Your worship, I'm going to speak in support of this application, and I'm actually going to use some of the rationale that was provided at the podium for my reason for support. So I want to begin by saying Departure Bay is one of our most desirable neighborhoods. We all know that. We've been there. It's amazing. I also want to say that I knew Bob Carpenter, and I know Bob's daughter Nicole, and Bob's grandson plays soccer with my son, and we shared conversation and laughter at every soccer game. But he always talked about this. I want you guys all to know that every time he was with me, he spoke about this. My rationale for supporting the project are the tranquil ocean views, the parks and the open space, the big trees for families, the excellent walking. I am aware that the proponent could go forward with R5 and put the same number of units on this property. I also understand that rationale was given to lower the CAC, which I disagree with because the developer has not gone through that process yet. That said, there are apartments directly across the street and down a ways. I think this fits with the neighborhood. I understand that the change is difficult, but I am in support for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere, is your mic working?
Check, check, yep. I think, now it's, okay, now it's working, thank you. Sorry, just a question through to staff. If it stayed at R5 and they were to develop it, would it potentially, if it were subdivided and they developed, would it go through design panel, or would it only go through design panel if it was at the R7?
Through your worship to Councillor Eastmere. So currently the city's form and character design guidelines exempt 4 units or less from development permit for form and character, as long as they're not asking for variances to the zoning bylaw requirements, and they're outside of the old city. So within the old city, 4 units would require a development permit. Outside of the old city, a development permit for form and character would only be required for 4 units where it didn't comply with the zoning bylaw requirements, if that makes sense.
It does, thank you. So speaking to this, like, I feel extremely conflicted about this project, and I think that's going to be reflected in the fact that I voted against the first reading here, but I feel like I'm now going to be landing on the supportive side, specifically because of this piece around the design panel, because that point around leading to a more cohesive and well-planned development, I think that is obviously going to be much more possible with the R7 zoning, because the site will be looked at as a whole, and then the design panel will have a chance to weigh in on the look and the layout and the landscaping, and I've seen what the design panel has been able to accomplish and assist with, and I think that there would be a higher level of intentionality with the design. But it is really tough to see a neighborhood changing, and I definitely understand those concerns from neighbors. So I appreciate everyone who has shared their perspective with us, and to councillors who've raised potential concerns. Like if there's changes or amendments we're able to make to get this on a more amenable path, I'm supportive of that. I appreciate the point about the higher community amenity contribution and the floor area ratio items. This is not an easy decision whatsoever, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. One question through staff first. So if this gets approved tonight, there's no guarantee that that concept plan will be the one that we see. Is that correct? So that this property could be sold and somebody could bring a new concept in with more units? Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Armstrong, yes, this the rezoning isn't proposing to secure the concept design, and the property, of course, could be sold, and development consistent with the proposed zoning could be brought forward through development permit application.
And would it be many more units, the maximum units that could be allowed on there, do you know?
Well, it's difficult to say if they're smaller. What's proposed are 3-bedroom units. They could be smaller units with fewer bedrooms, potentially. Similar form, though. It's row house style, so it's difficult to say without vetting a concept. So the number of units, difficult to comment on. It's really the building, the floor area ratio. So it's the area of the building relative to the lot size that's secured in the zoning, not the number of units.
Yeah, they'd have to go pretty narrow to put in a lot more units, correct? Thank you. So this, I too have really struggled with this. I go back and forth between each. But something that was said tonight, which has made me lean towards to be in favor of this development, is what Mr. Colin Stansfield said tonight. We're lacking that middle income housing. We really are. I voted for apartments on Uplands, even though I live close there and I don't want them there, but it's in the best interest of the city. And that's what my job here today is to do. It's not in for a neighborhood, it's what in the best interest of the city. We need more nurses, doctors, all that kind of stuff, and a lot of them can't afford to buy the homes, so we do need townhomes. I think they are the missing middle. And the thing that I look at from this perspective, we're talking of a difference of maybe 2 units. That's not a lot. 2 units is not a lot. And for me, that's a big selling point. We're not talking 10, we're not talking 20. In this particular plan, there's actually 1 less than what the actual R5 zoning allows. So that's a big thing for me. I do agree with Councillor Hemmons. I would like to see the CAC be higher. I think it's a little low. But right now, I am leaning towards in favor, but that could change depending on what my fellow councillors say. But I do know we are missing the middle housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I want to say to the 3 delegations, I know Dr. Smith is left, but thank you for being here. This is such a difficult topic. It's so hard to hear the discussion and to know the difficulty that everyone has been through and the stress that you've had to go through for a long time. And I had a long meeting with Bob Carpenter. He and I actually go way back. He happened to have a home in the Okanagan, and I lived there for a number of years. So he and I knew each other well. So it was fun to connect again. And this is a tough one. But there's a couple of things that you should know. I want you to know that that cancer center is going to open in less than 3 years, and we are going to invite as many as up to 200 new workers that are going to work there. So we better have a place to put them, because you're going to have radiation therapists and physicists and unit clerks. It is coming, and we all have to face that fact. The world is definitely changing, and unfortunately, it's changing here. For me, what was upsetting was when I found out that the R5 is almost exactly the same as the R7 for the number of units. I had to say, so if I know that, what would I want to live with if I were there? And I have to tell you that, and I certainly wouldn't agree to a plan for any more units, I can tell you that, because this would be the absolute maximum for me at the R7 size. But you've got to ask yourself, if you only had 10 or 12 houses there, you've got houses, you've got driveways, you've got lawns, you've got fencing, and it's all different. It's all different. Whereas if you go with a townhouse unit, it's all uniform. And we can watch it, and as Councillor Eastmare's talked about, we can check on the design. We can do all sorts of things to make sure that it's got the look that will be beautiful for your area and really maintain the value of your homes. This is not going to happen overnight, I can promise you that. These things always take a long time, so you're not going to see anything for a while. But for me, knowing just what we're going to have in medical people coming here, we have to build more homes. And these lots are huge, and it's just part of what development is. So we're going to make sure that it's, if this passes tonight, we're going to make sure that they're beautiful, and certainly value of your homes will continue to be what they are today. So I'll be voting in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Just a quick question to staff, and then I'll have some comments. Through you, just in the density, it says in the report, 0.7 FAR is the base density, and an additional density up to 1.5 FAR possible under Schedule D. What does that mean? Possible under Schedule D. What's the process for increasing the floor?
Through your worship, so there, to Councillor Manley's question, so there's as of right density within the zoning bylaw, and there's within the zoning bylaw that we have Schedule D currently, which is our density bonusing, the city's density bonusing provisions, and so and it's difficult to say what that would look like based on the concept, but if additional amenities are provided, if through development you can propose increased energy efficiency, for example, different amenities or different attributes that will reward you with additional density through density bonusing. So it's still as of right. It's not something that you come and ask council for, the additional density, but you have to meet certain provisions, certain conditions to achieve that additional density.
But it wouldn't be.
And it's a whole it's a menu, basically. It's quite a broad range of items. We need to actually review those provisions as part of the provincial changes to the provincial regulatory framework. Okay. It's something that's on our books to look at, but currently they can do without providing any additional amenities to achieve density bonusing. They can get 0.7 floor area ratio, and they can get up to, if they met all of the possible density bonusing provisions, they could get up to 1.05.
And that wouldn't come back to council?
That's right, it wouldn't come back to council.
Okay. So in general, I'm very mixed about this as well, because I've gone to visit the neighborhood and I see how neighborhoods are changing. I'm living in a changing neighborhood myself. I'm going to have houses overlooking my backyard, which I've lived without for the last 14 years. So I'm giving my hedges as much nutrient as I can and water and watching them grow, so I can keep some of my own privacy. But I do get the comments of the delegates and the concern of the neighbors. This is in city plan as a neighborhood designation, which is higher density. It's on a bus route. It's close to shopping and amenities. This is where we want density. This is what, this is why we have a city plan that focuses on areas where we want to increase density. And, with Bill 44, we're going to see R5 popping up in all kinds of places where we wouldn't really want that density. So I think it's important for us to follow the plan, to work on getting that missing middle in there. And as Mr. Stanfield said, that's what we need in our housing plan. We need more affordable options for young families, and so I'm going to support this. I do hear the angst of the neighborhood, and I appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eastmere.
I'm just wondering about an amendment to have some site-specific restrictions on this rezoning, so that if we do rezone to the R7, that we restrict the number of dwellings on the lot, so that it does actually reflect the proposal that's being shown today and doesn't sort of get flipped into something else that has a much higher density. So restricting to the proposed 20 units, that's reflected in the current proposal. So, is it? I'm sorry?
Mr. Holm?
I think, through your worship, I think I heard Councillor Brown proposing something similar earlier. I'm not sure what, in that case, I think the suggestion was to send it back. I'm not sure what an amendment would look like at this point. It's possible, like an amendment on the fly would probably be difficult. So it'd probably be best, I'm thinking, to send it back to staff to bring it back, to work with the applicant and bring it back if that were the case. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know if anybody at the council table has a motion prepared, or if there's some other option, but I think probably best, cleanest to, if council's not prepared to support it as is, and to put some other provisions or conditions in place, that it be sent back and then returned to council.
Ms. Gurry, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking what Councillor Eastmer is suggesting is a motion that this be referred back to staff to include as part of the conditions that the number of units be limited to 19, or Councillor Brown? I'll look to Councillor Brown before I hear from you, Ms. Gurry, and see what he's thinking. Please, Councillor Brown.
I don't want to budge in line, but first reading's already been provided, so notice in accordance with the legislation has been provided. The easiest way, I think, would be refer the bylaw back to staff for discussions with the proponent to limit the FAR to be consistent with the submitted concept plans. I don't think we would be hesitant to be too specific, because if it's, 0.075 FAR, figure it out, the concept plans are there. I think likely the easiest way would just be a covenant that restricted the FAR, but I think that would most appropriately be left with staff and the proponent to come up with something that's workable for all parties. But.
Thank you, Ms. Gurry.
If council's amenable to that, that could be the motion that could then be deferred back to staff for that.
Councillor Brown, if you wish to make the motion.
Yeah, I will move to refer the bylaw back to staff for discussions with development proponent to limit the FAR to be consistent, generally consistent with the submitted concept plans. And I can speak to it if there's a seconder.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like I said, first reading's already been provided, notice has been given, so it would just be potential change to the conditions of approval or the bylaw itself. It could come back to council for second, third, and adoption accordingly. And I would assume that conversation can be fairly quick. If those discussions don't prove to be fruitful with the applicant or the development proponent, that's not something they wish to entertain. It would be their very right to bring that back for us and to consider the bylaw as is.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor? All right. Sorry. Yes? No?
Yes, please.
Yes, Councillor Thorpe, to this motion? Sorry.
Is it? All right, there we go. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I guess I'll support this motion, but I'm finding it a little bit strange that a number of councillors are expressing real concerns about this proposal in the R7 format. And they're so worried that we want to send it back to staff to get certain assurances. Well, then why don't we just vote this down and wait for an R5 proposal to come forward for this property, which council could look at, and because it complied with zoning, have some input still, then be more comfortable approving it. So we seem to be saying, we support this change to R7, but we're not really comfortable with what it could look like. It could exceed the number of units and so on and so forth. Well, if everybody is so concerned about it, then let's vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's on.
It's a miracle.
It's a poltergeist. I just went blank. Through you to staff, if we sent this back to you, what kind of timeline is the proponent looking at for a turnaround?
Yeah, difficult to say. As soon as possible, but I should flag to Councillor Thorpe's suggestion. If the property were to develop under the existing zoning, it wouldn't come back to council. Just to flag that. But as far as the timeline of this returning, I can't say. But as
ballpark, like 4 weeks, 4 months.
We'd have to fit it in with the other work, but we'd get it back as soon as we could. And it depends on the conversations with the applicant, the ability to work through that, and getting it back on council's schedule. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate what Councillor Brown is trying to do here, but I'm not going to support. I think the proponent is a local business owner who has developed their proposal to the point where redrafting it will be costly. So I really truly believe that this is the concept that they're bringing forward. I don't believe that they're going to upzone and sell. Again, I think local buyers and local community builders. So I'm not going to vote in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, mine's working now too. Well, let's get rid of that. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think what Councillor Brown was trying to do was certainly worth discussion, and I appreciate that. I actually like this plan. The idea of having many houses on this property in an R5, I think would be devastating to the neighborhood, whereas the concept of a uniform development where you're much less lawns and fences, and it can be beautiful. There are some gorgeous townhouse subdivisions all over town. I just think this can be beautiful as it is. I won't be supporting Councillor Brown's motion. I think it's just time to get on with it and get to the business of the day.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the motion because I have sat at this table for a long time where I actually have seen developments get approved and then be sold, and the concept plan is totally gone, and we've seen an extra 20 units. So for me, that's what this is about. I don't think, and I'm hoping that the developer's not going to do that. I know it's going to take more time. I get that, and I'm sorry about that. But for me, I would like to see some certainty for the community. And the reason I support the R7 is because it does go to design panel. It goes to R5, nobody sees it. And the developer still has that opportunity themselves. If they want to go to R5, it doesn't have to come back to council as was stated. So for me, it's about the certainty of keeping that project at the 20-unit mark and having it go to design panel. That's why I like the R7 zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, I died again. Councillor Brown, and then Councillor Eastmere.
Last time, and I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything here, but I just want to make sure that we understand the mechanics of things, because I do think it's important. The existing R5 zone exists. It has form and density, and I think that's important here because the proposal to the R7, and just to Councillor Thorpe, does add the additional form of row housing or row house, which does not exist in the R5 zone. So that is one of the changes. The other change is the shift from the density calculation to FAR based. And why I think that's important is, and I think Councillor Armstrong's bang on there, is like, I think Joyce is an amazing architect. She did these concept plans. I would love to see her build this and many more buildings in our community. But life does happen, and it happens frequently in development, even with the best intentions, and new owners and different intentions come to the parcel. If this zoning was approved as is, and if council's comfortable with that, that's great, but it could permit a completely different a completely different look and up to 1.05 FAR. So that is a significant change than the concept plans in the agenda, and that's what I think the danger of concept plans here is. It's easy to attach yourself to one idea. So I just want to highlight that the row housing and the difference in FAR are the major changes here. Obviously, there's some setbacks and parcel coverage as well, but I do think it's important if council consider those. And there's a very real path, no matter what the zoning is, that neither of these will come back to council. So I think that's just to be very clear. If the zoning, is approved, it likely would be a delegated approval, if even with the R7. So, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. I'm supportive of this motion because I think it will give a level of assurance about what could be developed on this property, and so that, because I think sort of what we like the concept plan and would like to see, if anything were to proceed, that there's an assurance that that is the type of project we'll end up with and not something that has even higher density. So I am happy to support this and really get this right so that it fits well with the neighborhood and is designed and implemented in the most intentional way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I am banking on the proponent tonight that if this motion passes in a short delay, that what I think council was looking for, as I understood it, was simply a guarantee to some extent that there would be no more than 19 townhouse units on this property. And that's why I'm prepared to support this motion. And candidly, as has been pointed out, given current zoning, you could look at something which would not be an attractive addition to the neighborhood and wouldn't fulfill the need in this community, which is apparent and which we have heard expressed to us many, many times. And notwithstanding what I saw in a letter today where someone was suggesting we want to try and preserve single-family dwellings so that people can buy single-family dwellings, that's not going to preserve the price of single-family dwellings. If you can find a lot in this city for under $400,000 somewhere and put a single-family house on it, good luck. What people can afford realistically in a growing community is townhouses, and I'm supportive of that concept. So I'm going to support Councillor Brown's motion. All those in favor? Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Perino, Brown, and Manley, and those opposed? Councillor Hemmons, you're playing the mayor's role tonight. It's okay to be alone. Thank you very much. Yes, we're going to take the break. Staff will be a little bit tired. 10 minutes, please. Thank you.
Named after one of Nanaimo's most notable celebrities, Diana Krall Plaza is an open public space in the heart of downtown Nanaimo. The space is one with plenty of potential, but most days it serves as little more than a space to pass through or to access the credit union or public library that have entrances that face the plaza. In essence, Diana Krall Plaza is a space that has yet to find its heartbeat. However, one event does make great use of the space each Thursday evening throughout the summer. The night market along Commercial Street brings food trucks, artisans, vendors, and entertainers in, transforming Diana Krall Plaza into the lively destination it was always meant to be. As As downtown Nanaimo is reimagined, the goal for this key plaza is to carry the energy of the night market forward in a way that sees the space used well throughout each day and every season. Diana Krall Plaza was established in the late 1990s when the Port Theatre, the Harbourfront branch of the Vancouver Island Regional Library, and the Harbourfront Parkade were built. The plaza sits atop that parkade. This was a new approach to open space in Nanaimo, but the problem? The plaza was, and typically still is, empty. As the roof of a parkade, the plaza suffers from structural load limitations. The plaza can't support big trees or heavy features. Blank walls on adjacent buildings and minimal art leaves the space feeling uncomfortable and uninviting. Over the years, design ideas were brought forward, but none were realized. That, however, is about to change. In 2020, an advisory committee of volunteers, businesses, Vancouver Island University staff, and students, and the City of Nanaimo came together to re-envision Diana Krall Plaza. Their goal? To create an actionable vision for the plaza that will lead to real change. Building on this groundwork, the project team held community workshops, a design charrette, and put in many hours of volunteer effort to create realistic ideas that would animate the space and make it feel inviting. Features like warm lighting, intriguing art, comfortable seating, and shade will bring the vision to life. The renewed space would also be a multi-purpose and ready for outdoor patio usage, informal play, and many different events, big and small. Now armed with ideas to greatly improve both the physical and social character of Diana Krall Plaza, the design development for the first phase is underway, and with it, a new rhythm is being created for the heart of downtown Nanaimo.
There's a wing flutter of starlings, little specks that swoop low and then rise, gliding over cushions of air, like the gentle crest and trough of ocean waves, to fan out in oblivion. All is quiet and still again. You send ripples through still waters of ponds, making them glisten like 1,000 prisms bathed in the brilliance of a fall morning. Come dusk, you blow harder, and the leaves of the sprawling oak tree pirouette and glide in the air like little ballerinas, then sink onto the ground below. The breath of autumn. I stand atop a hill on an early morn and hear your beacon call. Your breath, as you whisper sweet nothings to the stately pines and conifers. You fly with your invisible cape, rustling through their slender branches to make stately willows dance and sway. You gently rise, your breath soft like a lullaby, as you transform maple trees from green to ochre to a flaming red, setting hillsides ablaze with the fiery plumes of cedars. You ascend to the gray sky to make wispy clouds play hide and seek with the setting sun. You send ripples through still waters of ponds, making them glisten like 1,000 prisms bathed in the brilliance of a fall morning. Come dusk, you blow harder, and the leaves of the sprawling oak tree pirouette and glide in the air like little ballerinas, then sink onto the ground below. A family of furry squirrels scurries down the rugged trunk of the old dogwood tree, to nosedive into a pile of crinkled yellow leaves that were once skittering down the cobbled sidewalk. Welcome, autumn. It is fall, cloud-mottled sky, shadow-flecked Mount Benson, silver-spangled Long Lake, silent creeks echoing shrill cries of a golden eagle that resound far and wide. Sparkling streams meander lazily, their mercurial waters networking the lush green fabric of a city called Nanaimo. Come summer, bushed heavy with blueberries and blackberries, skirt trails that wind through forests of oak and age-old cedars. Ducks and herons play hide and seek among the tall, swaying bulrushes, pock-marking still waters of a pond. Daisies smile and nod through overgrown ferns and nettle, all silently waiting, an expectancy that hangs in the air, a yearning for something new, a new season, a new makeover of nature. It is fall.
This is a City of Nanaimo storm drain. This is also a City of Nanaimo storm drain. The only thing that goes in this is rainwater. Anything other than rainwater ends up into the ocean, which ultimately affects the marine life. There's many different styles of catch basins. These are just two, but they both collect rainwater. One has a fish stamped on it. That's telling me that it's unprocessed and it goes directly to an environmentally sensitive area. This is the outfall, so anything that you put in that catch basin is ultimately going to end up into the ocean. If you have any questions about where to take your unwanted wasted products, such as paint products and petroleum products, you can contact the City of Nanaimo at 758-5222.
Where's Councillor Thorpe? All right, Council, we're on to item 14, bylaws, highway closure and dedication removal bylaw 2026, number 7448. This is the Corona Avenue closure. Councillor Thorpe, acting mayor, if you can read the bylaw, please. Oh, let me ask first. Oh, no, sorry. Is there anyone here wishing to speak with respect to highway closure and dedication removal bylaw 2026, number 7448? Not seeing anyone. It's simply a motion. Councillor Thorpe's making the motion.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll move that the highway closure and dedication removal bylaw 2026, number 7448, pass third reading.
We have a seconder, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Items of correspondence, Island Coastal Economic Trust, request for letter of support re-advancing Made in the Coast co-governance legislation. I will just say briefly, if you've read the letter, The intention of the Island Coastal Economic Trust, and I sit on that board as your city rep, et cetera, is to include a significant change to the legislation to secure further funding and also to increase Indigenous participation. And so I would very much, I would very much appreciate it if we could, someone could move for a letter of support. Moved Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Manley. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next is correspondence from Jim Zaffino, Chief Administrative Officer, Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, request for support for Orphan Dyke Advocacy Letter. Moved Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Perino. Councillor Brown. Are you, sorry?
Okay. The only question I have here is in the letter it says the RDOS is reaching out to all regional districts in British Columbia, so I was just curious how it ended up on our table.
Sent to everyone, I believe, is that's the only.
I know, I just wonder, yeah, because the letter indicates it was just intended for regional districts, so that's all. It's just.
Your worship, if the letter, if the motion is made to support, it could maybe be made to send a letter if required from a municipality, or is it just looking for support? Yeah. So, Councillor Armstrong is noting that
okay.
the letter does state member municipalities, so.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. We have no notices. We have no notices of motion under other business. Deferred motion, development cost charge reduction bylaw. Mr. Holm, Ms. Mercer, somebody's.
So, Your Worship, just to give some context behind this motion was deferred from your last council meeting. There was a motion under your consent items from the previous Finance and Audit Committee meeting to approve development cost charge reduction bylaw, and the options that were given to you at the Finance and Audit were a 50% DCC reduction for nonprofit rental and supportive housing. This was pulled from consent to be considered separately, and it was defeated on a tie. And a new motion was put forward to change that percentage to 75% DCC reduction for nonprofit rental and supportive housing. And it was deferred to be considered at this council meeting. So that is what is on the floor. And I believe before you discuss this deferred motion, staff has some background information on the costs associated with those percentages. I think I've got it correct. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Questions for staff on this? Councillor Perino?
Well, Your Worship, just to give a bit of context, I asked that it be pulled from the consent agenda. We discussed it at this level, and of course with Councillor Thorpe, who was away on vacation at the time. I wanted him to have an opportunity to speak to it as well, and that's why it's back here today. And I know you're going to have staff speak to it, but the reason why I asked that it be reviewed again is because we did increase the development cost charges. Staff did come back with the suggestion of a 50% reduction for the DCCs for nonprofit rental and supportive housing. However, I felt that given the increases of the DCCs, I felt that it was still too high, and we want to encourage as much not-for-profit rental and supportive housing as much as possible, and so I asked that it be brought down to 50%.
Thank you.
Sorry, I asked that it be
75. Increased to 75.
I'm sorry.
In- it-
No, I didn't.
What-
Reduced by 75%.
Yes.
That's right.
The reduction has been increased to 75%.
That's right.
The motion is in front of us and it is on the table. Correct, Ms. Gurry? Has it
So
been
yes, the
deferred?
motion that is on the table now
Yes.
and is able to be discussed is that council directs staff to proceed with a development cost charge DCC reduction bylaw with a 75% DCC reduction for not-for-profit rental and supportive housing, and with eligibility criteria as proposed in the staff report titled Development Cost Charge Reduction Bylaw, dated 2026 March 18th. And then the slide that was up there was showing you the implications, projected property tax impact for the different rates. So the 50% DCC reduction and what the impact, projected property tax impact would be for 75% and for 100%. So that's just something to consider when considering this motion.
Councillor Brown, then Councillor Thorpe, then Councillor Eastmere, then Councillor Armstrong.
I have two questions. Is this impact is just for the next budget, 2027?
Through your worship, that is correct. And I would just like to point out, there's this slide, and these would be the numbers. Okay. These would be the estimated numbers effective January 1st, 2027. And the next slide is for the rates that would become effective January 2028, with fire and police CCCs coming online effective January 1st, 2028.
Okay, so if we go back one here.
So these are 2027.
So, like, we would be anticipating $500,000 next year of DCC reductions?
At 50%.
Okay. Can we use the Housing Legacy Reserve to cover those?
That is something I would have to go back and check, but in theory, yes, but I'll have to double check that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
I'll just use this. Thanks, Your Worship. So yes, I was absent from that meeting, but I did review the material. And the motion that's on the floor for a 75% DCC reduction, I can't support that. I just frankly think that's being too generous. I would be ready to support the original recommendation of 50%, but I can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. I supported this at the 50% DCC reduction. My rationale for not supporting the 75% is the fact that if it was just private developers trying to build affordable housing, I would be in favor of giving them a reduction. But the fact is that the only way that affordable housing is getting built is when developers are partnering with the province, and really it's the province that is funding these DCCs. And so basically we're cutting the province a deal, and then we have to deal with all of the downstream costs that are already being downloaded to us around housing and shelter issues. And we're already doing more than our fair share. And the infrastructure costs associated with these projects is significant. And before, we could kind of just not take the DCC money and we didn't have to represent it on the books, but now we do. So we can't just not take in that money, we have to find it somewhere else. And that's going directly onto the back of taxpayers. So while I'm in favor of doing what we can to build more affordable housing, I think that this is actually setting us up to be in a really tricky position where we can't afford to pay for the infrastructure we need for the rest of our city, let alone for affordable housing projects. So for that reason, I would support the 50%, but not the 75.
Thank you. It's me. Laura. Pardon me, Ms. Mercer.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to point out that, yes, you could use the Housing Legacy Reserve. However, this is an annual budget item. So eventually it will become taxation.
Councillor Armstrong?
I will not be supporting. Yes, I won't be supporting 75%. That's far too high. Our taxpayers are already paying a lot of money. A lot of times, especially on supportive housing units, the city is giving land, which is a lot of money, or has purchased land with a lot of money, and I don't think it's fair. And I agree with the points that Councillor Eastmere meant that are made, that most of this comes to the province and feds, and they can afford to pay the DCCs. Thank you.
Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the motion that's on the floor. It's on the floor. I think the DCCs are going up. The province has been pretty clear that there's not really any money to build non-market housing in the next few years. And I think that probably if we do get lucky enough to see some non-market housing get built, it probably will be from other sources than the provincial government. And I think providing any break that we can to see this happen is important, because the risk to taxpayers of not having this housing is, one, we can't fill positions in town for jobs. We have more people out on the streets, and it just compounds. So, you know, it's very difficult to do a full cost accounting on exactly, you know, what will cost the taxpayer more. But I feel that not getting this housing built will end up costing everybody more. So I think, you know, if we subsidize it a little bit more, which is pretty insignificant, it's like, you know, $300,000, we're not going to lose our shirts over it, and we could incentivize greater investment in non-market housing in Nanaimo. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, thank Councillor Perino for bringing this forward. I am very supportive. I don't think anything we decide here, because it's separate bylaw, we can change it at any time without requiring provincial approval, unlike the DCC bylaw. So I think if we find that it's being very well subscribed to, that's a good thing, considering both the housing needs report, but going back even further, the Health and Housing Task Force showing that really the areas that we need to be targeting are kind of like we've been delivering on some of it, but the need is very great, and the amount of inputs into tackling that segment of housing needs has not been realized, not even close. So there's a lot of flexibility here to change the bylaw. I think that we could fund a good chunk out of it from the Housing Legacy Reserve initially without impact to taxation, and then reassess if it's being subscribed heavily. Again, that's good in the sense that we would be seeing affordable housing built. And I would just kind of counter the narrative a little bit around the federal and provincial government funding these things. When it comes to financial flow through for these projects, DCC breaks can actually move when you're working with BC Housing or working with other lenders, usually quite significantly move a project from non-viability into viability. And there's some real world examples that I can point people to. So I think every little bit helps. If it's oversubscribed, that's good, and we can next council can reevaluate and also look at some alternate funding sources. I've got the Housing Legacy Reserve Fund up here, and it does really speak to this type of thing as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Working again. Councillor Perino, Hemmons, and Eastmere.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wouldn't have even brought this forward except that we did raise the DCCs. So once we raised those and we were going to make extra money, that's when I felt like, let's do everything we can to encourage the not-for-profit rental and supportive housing, because we're so desperate for it, and hopefully we can have developers or the provincial or the federal government take advantage of it. The numbers that you're seeing, I just wanted to ask through you, Your Worship, now, the numbers that we're seeing is only if that amount of housing is being proposed and built. Is that correct?
Mr. Holm.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Perino. So what's shown is 75 units is a 5-year average of
Okay.
the number of units per annually that have,
Okay.
have qualified
Okay, super.
recently. So it's an estimation.
It's an
We don't
estimation,
know.
okay. So did we have any supportive housing that, did we take in 75 last year?
Sorry, they're non-market units. Non-market units that have been approved in the last 5 years, that's the average, so with a DCC reduction. So we're looking at this year, actually, we just approved development cost charge reduction for, trying to remember how many units or what the value was.
Please tell me it was 1,000.
It was around it's probably 125 or so
Okay.
Recently on one
Okay.
project.
Because we have not been doing really well, and I'm so pleased to hear that we actually have that many coming forward now. The whole idea of this is to encourage this kind of building. We desperately need it. That's the only reason why I'm encouraging it, and I appreciate Councillor Gesselbrock and Councillor Brown's comments.
Councillor Eastmere.
Just one final point would be that if it stayed at the 50%, if a project was hinging on needing a 75% reduction, they would, the developers would still have the option to come to council to request the 75% reduction. So that's further to my rationale of supporting the 50%. It's because if that extra 25% was really going to make the difference, any developer would still be welcome to come to us and could get a specific reduction for their particular project. So it doesn't take away that option at the 50% level. It just makes it a little bit more sustainable, I think, in the long run to fund the infrastructure that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley and then Councillor Hemmons.
I think I'm going to support this. We need to get as much affordable housing built as possible, and so it's not a huge amount of money if we can revisit it later to change the bylaw. That, you know, if it's oversubscribed, I appreciate the comments that Councillor Gesselbrock and Councillor Brown have already brought up, and Councillor Perino. So yeah, I'm just going to support it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was happily landed at the 50%. Can I ask staff, though, forgive me, I don't think I heard correctly, but we recently waived DCCs for an affordable housing project. What did you just say to Councillor Brown? Maybe not waiving them, but reduced them? And I'm curious, was that a BC Housing Build or a local nonprofit?
Thank you. Through your worship, yeah, correct. We say waiver, it's actually a reduction. The Local Government Act refers to it as waivers and reductions. So, so it was a reduction. I'm trying to recall the project off the top of my head. It was a BC Housing project as well. So.
Okay. I agree completely with Councillor Eastmere on this. It feels straight. I completely agree that we want more non-market housing built. Developers can come forward if that 50% is going. If the 75% is going to break the project. We provide a lot of land for supportive housing projects to be built, and primarily this waiver reduction would go to the province, who are also providing land to. So I just can't support it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be very quick. I liked 50. Staff recommended 50. I'm sticking at 50. The motion on the floor now is the 75%. All those in favor, Councillor Gesselbrock, Perino, Brown, and Manley. Those opposed, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Hemmons, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe. Defeated. Someone care to make a motion at 50, please?
So, Your Worship, just to clarify, it would need to be a reconsideration because 50% was considered at the last meeting under the consent items and defeated. So Councillor Thorpe could bring back the reconsideration because he was absent, and or the mayor, you can bring it back as the mayor under section 133 of the community charter, or 131.
Councillor Thorpe has the opportunity then to do the 50% reduction.
So you would need to make a motion to reconsider, that you would like to reconsider the 50%, should you wish to, because you were absent at the last council meeting. and the 50% was considered under consent and failed on a tie.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Gurry. As long as that's the proper way to move forward,
Yeah, so first you would need a motion to reconsider.
I would like to make a motion to reconsider the 50% reduction.
Seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion?
There's no discussion on this,
Oh,
this
excellent.
one
All
motion.
those in
Yeah.
favor?
Yeah.
Everybody except Councillor Perino.
Okay.
Thank you. Motion carries.
And now the motion is just on the floor now.
Now the
for you,
motion at 50% is on the floor.
and you can discuss
Is there
this
any
one.
need for discussion any further? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Those opposed? Councillor Perino. I was going to say, Councillor Hemmons and Perino become the lone wolves tonight like the mayor. Well done. Thank you. Much appreciated. All right, the next is deferred request for reconsideration, BC Council of Forest Industries request for endorsement of forestry as a solution.
So,
Councillor just hang on. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think, Ms. Gurry, did you want to jump? There was something.
yeah, I
else.
was just going to say that procedurally, the motion to reconsider passed, and you put this on the floor, and then it was deferred. So it is now on the floor again procedurally. So.
Just
doesn't want to work.
No,
Okay, there it is. There it is. All right. So again, I ask that this be deferred so that Councillor Thorpe could be here, because I know it was a very close vote, and I was hoping to get it through to give support. The reason why was I did some checking, I made some phone calls to get some more information about how many people are affected by the forestry industry in Nanaimo. And I heard a variety of numbers. However, everything was between 3,000 and 5,000 workers in our area that work in or around the forestry field, which is a huge amount of people. So if you consider that they might have spouses or partners or children or siblings or parents, you know, it's easy to consider that that number suddenly could be anywhere between 10 and 15,000 people who are affected by the forestry industry in our community, which is almost a tenth of our population, which is quite striking. It's important, I think, that we stand up to say forestry is a solution for the future. It is, they are looking for our support, and I hope that we vote in favor of this today.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gesselbrock and then Councillor Brown.
Get the mic.
Is the mic not working?
Mine's working? Great. Thank you, Mayor, through you. First off, I think the strongest and most immediate reason why not to support this motion is that it represents very poor governance. What's being asked of us here is not simply to express a general position of support for forestry, something I think many of us could agree on. We're also being asked to do three very specific things. One, to formally endorse a province-wide industry-led campaign requesting specific forest management policy changes. Two, to encourage residents to send letters to provincial decision makers on behalf of the campaign to sign a petition. And three, to direct staff to actively promote the industry campaign through official municipal communication channels. That is a significant step away out of our lane. We are a local government. We do not have the mandate nor the institutional expertise to evaluate and endorse requests for detailed provincial forestry policy changes, particularly those being advanced by industry advocacy organizations. Yet this motion asks us not only to take a position, but to use public resources and staff capacity to promote that position in our community. That is a misappropriation of city resources. If this were another issue, if we were being asked to use city communication channels to advocate for changes to mining resource extraction rules, I suspect many around this table would be raising serious concerns about overreach and the appropriate role of municipal government. I have been on council when members have raised those exact concerns in response to smaller asks, such as sending a simple resolution for debate at UBCM, asking the province to improve the protection of the remaining 1% of large-treed old-growth forests. Imagine if part of the council old-growth resolution also directed staff to promote lobby material put forth by an environmental NGO through official city communication channels and to get community members to sign a petition. I think we can all picture the strong and principled arguments that would have been made around this table about staying in our lane, focusing on what we control, and not using city communication resources to promote provincial lobby requests beyond our expertise and ability to review. And yet, those principles seem to shift when the issues align with particular interest or advocacy efforts. I do believe that there's a time and place for council to speak on provincial issues, but this goes much further. This asks the city to effectively act as a communications arm for an industry lobbying campaign. That is not appropriate, and it sets a precedent I don't think any of us should be comfortable with if we step back and consider it carefully. For me, while the governance concerns, particularly the use of city communication resources, is significant, it is not the only issue here. We also need to look carefully at what we are being asked to endorse. The campaign asserts that forestry, as it is currently practiced, is a solution to some of British Columbia's biggest challenges: housing affordability, wildfire risk, climate change, and economic resilience. That is a broad and frankly oversimplistic narrative. The reality is that BC's forestry sector is facing deep structural challenges that are not primarily caused by regulating or permitting delays. We are dealing with long-term fiber supply issues driven by decades of overharvesting in some regions and depletion of accessible old-growth forests, and increasing pressures from climate change, pests, and wildfire. Many of the reforms this campaign is implicitly or explicitly pushing back against, such as old-growth protection, ecosystem-based management, and increased First Nations decision-making, were introduced precisely because the previous model was not as sustainable or just. Rolling those back in the name of short-term supply may provide temporary relief, but it risks deepening the very ecological and economic instability that has led to mill closures and job losses across the province. My concern is that this lobby request reflects a form of crisis opportunism, where calls for regulatory rollbacks are made during a period of crisis that is actually driven by much deeper structural issues. The campaign also frames regulation as a primary barrier to competitiveness. But that ignores the broader reality that global lumber markets, U.S. softwood lumber tariffs, high operating costs, transportation costs, and long-term shift towards fewer, more automated mills, and these are the forces shaping the industry, not simply permitting timelines. On wildfire risks, there's also it's important, strategic fuel management around communities is very important, but current logging practices, such as clear cutting in certain areas, can actually change the structure of the forest dramatically and can lead to increased fire risks. So while I do think it's very important to support our forestry sector, I think that advocating for a future-focused forestry sector, one that's environmentally sustainable, one that supports workers, is in the best interest of this community. And I think that we need to really focus on lifting up that sector, not simply with slogans, but with real evidence-based solutions, and to move that forward. So for governance reasons and for reasons that the policy just doesn't match to what some of the reality is on the ground and what other aspects of community are advocating for, I don't think this is an appropriate use of city resources, especially asking our staff and using our communicating channels to push this campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown and Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't be supporting it. I just simply don't think that we should be having these conversations here, one way or the other. I appreciate that we elect MLAs for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. I'll be supporting. I don't see it outside of our lane. It's economic growth, of which Harmac supplies $500 million of growth in this community. We've heard from Councillor Bruno how many stuff. This council just debated emissions, which is not in our purview either. So as far as I'm concerned, we've already stepped out of it numerous times, and I'm in favor of supporting our forestry industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Manley.
Thank you. I'm going to say what he said, Councillor Gusselbrock, so I'll keep it shorter. But the idea of reducing administrative and regulatory burdens, we've got these things in place because First Nations have asked for this. We've asked, the province of British Columbia, the residents have asked for changes to forest practices. There's been over-harvesting in the interior. Things are going fantastic on the coast, so good that we had company executives come and tell us that we can afford to export almost 3 million cubic meters of raw logs from this coast, and it's not a problem. We have so much excess here that we can load it up on ships and not have to worry about milling it here ourselves. So there is a serious problem in the interior. There's been overharvesting. Communities like Grand Forks have seen major flooding because the watershed has been logged right out. There's no retention of water. And they've been asking for regulations like this. Other communities have been asking for regulations like this, and now is not the time to deregulate. We just had the forest minister in town with the MLAs saying things are going well. They weren't talking about a process where there was too much regulation. They were talking about international markets and problems.
You wore your mic out. Thank you. Looks like mine's gone too. Councillor Hemmons, then Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, a question to staff. Can I please understand how staff would interpret if we direct you to share information about forestry as a solution through the city's official communication channels? How will that be interpreted and executed, please?
Through your worship, to Councillor Hemmons, I have not actually thought of that just yet. I know Mr. Burgos is here. We similarly had recently sharing information about, I can't remember the campaign, but it was a delegation that came not long ago, and we shared some information with that. Through our social media channels, we might direct them to websites and or information, and say via council motion, we have been requested to share or point you in the direction of this information. Something like that.
Did the previous rollout of the request for council to distribute information, did it require, or did it include that caveat saying that this is at council direction?
I don't believe Mr. Burgos is here still. I believe it did. I believe we said that per council resolution, or council made a resolution at such and such a meeting to share this information on this campaign, or something along those lines.
I see. Thank
So
you.
it wasn't the forestry motion, it was a delegation that came, and there was a different, it was a different motion. Yeah, it was that one. I just can't remember the name of the actual campaign. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me. Quickly, I will be supporting this. I note that the request for the letter came from the BC Council of Forest Industries, a coalition of 12 partners directly involved in the industry who presumably have some expertise in forestry and forestry practice. They're asking for our support. So I think it's about time this council put its money where its mouth is and actually gave them support if they wish it, instead of saying we support it but then not following through. So I'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Motion's on the table. All those in favor? Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Hemmons, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Perino. Those opposed? Councillors Eastmere, Gesselbrock, Manley, and Brown. Motion carries. Is there anything for question period, Ms. Gurry? No. Councillor Armstrong?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed?